right, everyone. We're live with Aaron and Elise Pratt. And how this came about is a lot of argument came out online about the bills that were being passed. 234 is the initial one, and then the other one's 157 or something.
Well, there's three of them total now. You've got 234, Senate Bill 114, and then Senate Bill 157.
Yeah, and now 234 has been pulled.
Yeah, 234 is the one that's currently been tabled, but he left it very open in such a way that I think he's planning on bringing it back.
He's tabling it he's going to try to bring it back next year after he's had some more. Yeah. This is my understanding. I don't know. In
fact, when I went in to do my research, he had actually, what I could pull up originally was an altered bill from the original state. So okay. He's already started changing what he has written.
Come in on the mic while you.
Okay. He's already started changing what it is he's got online, and we had to kind of dig to find the original bill.
Yeah, and I think it might get reworded. It might get changed around. But anyway, so I saw this commotion on Facebook, and the commotion I saw was there. Okay, the funny thing was I saw no teachers on this commotion. Mostly saw other people, angry that these bills were being put forward. And so I had questions about it, and I have thoughts and feelings on it. So I reached out to a couple teachers, and I found you, and now I've got your wife, and you guys are both teachers. Aaron's a teacher at a charter school.
Yep.
And you're a teacher at my neighborhood school. Yes. at Settlement. Mm-hmm. So I kind of wanted to, I wanted to open a debate where I saw this contention where it seemed like neither side were giving any, they weren't listening to the other side very well. And so I want to have this debate so we can open up so both sides can kind of hear what the other side has to say and what reasons they have for their stance and position, and maybe a happy medium can be met. Mm-hmm. So, and I hope everyone joining in, feel free to comment with your questions and suggestions, but let's go through the main one I saw, the 234. That was a bill. I'm not gonna pull it up and read it because it's boring to read. But what it was stating was that kind of a syllabus had to be written by week and by the teacher, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the hard part about that would have been teachers are already pressed for time, and so you would have had to maybe at home write the syllabus, I guess, on your time off. Would you have been able to write the syllabus and that syllabus carry on year after year, or does that change?
Okay, so first off, the bill calls for all of your curriculum to be posted up front at the start of the year. So okay. Originally when the bill was written, it was written that your syllabus had to outline what you were going to be teaching all year long, which is simple enough to do in the general umbrella. But I mean, there are times where I alter my lessons from day to day. If the students didn't get it today, it's going to be different tomorrow than what I originally had planned. There's times that I have to alter my lessons in the middle of the lesson, let alone from day to day. I mean, there's just too many challenges. If library was canceled that day, we're going to have to add in material. Or if an assembly was canceled that day, or an assembly was thrown into the day, then you're going to have to pull something out that you had planned. Or guest speakers, or teachers needing sick days, heaven forbid. That's going to alter what your plan was. And to ask, like I said, to ask for a general syllabus with an umbrella of what we're going to teach, that already happens. I don't know of a single teacher that does not provide their students with a syllabus at the start of the year that tells them what's going to be taught and goes in. It will at least mention, like, for literacy, we will be working with the Ready Gen by Savas program. I can't post specifics on that without breaking copyright laws.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, I can't upload. It was the bill was asking for us to be able to upload all of our materials online for parents to be able to review and approve, which we can't upload those online without breaking copyright laws and infringing upon the money that we've spent and the contract we've made in getting these materials. Let alone, you know, the alterations we might have to make along the way as far as how the lessons go and what we have to slow down to teach a little better, and really doing what professionally we're paid to do, and gearing the education as closely as we can to every individual student.
So if you deviated from what you posted, that would make you a criminal.
Yeah. I mean, the way the bill was originally written, legal litigation was possible for anybody who violated they asked for 5 days in advance for approval before you changed a lesson. And like I said, we will modify from day to day, or even just in the middle of a lesson. If something's not going well, we'll change what we're doing to make it work for the kids that we have. And to your point of, can you use the same thing from year to year? The general umbrella you could, but every year is different and every student is different, and you're not going to do the exact same things every single year. It's just not possible.
See, and that does, boy, that is a complicated thing. One, at the beginning of the year, you have to have your syllabus written out. Now, I guess if you were going off one history book, you know, like, I don't know, world history, 10th grade, then you could say, well, there's a syllabus, you know.
Yeah, it might be a little different. You've got 2 elementary educators here. So it's probably different in the secondary world when you get into junior high and high school, where, you know, the teachers have maybe, you know, some of them teach the same subject all day long. And so they have one syllabus that they write and that's it. Where we would have to come up with a year plan for language arts, a year plan for math, a year plan for science, a year plan for social studies, a year plan for character development, a year plan. I mean, it's just the work, especially on us elementary educators, would be tremendous.
So do you think that maybe, because there's been, I'm just going to say it, there has been some significant trust broken between teachers and parents in some areas. I'm not saying here, but in some areas of the United States this last couple of years. Some significant trust broken. Some pretty questionable things have happened. Do you think that maybe a wave has been started and we're getting carried away on it because of that?
I think that just like any profession, you're going to have good apples and bad apples. And I think that the bad apples need to be dealt with.
Well, I don't like to label them as bad apples. I think what happens is sometimes people let ideology outweigh their profession. And I think they're not doing it. They're not sinister when they do this, but I think parents are trying to backlash from the other side and pressuring their legislatures to, hey, give us some control. I mean, the stuff that happened in Loudoun County at the beginning of the year was heinous.
What are you referring to, Jared?
Was it stuff? That was when that boy raped that girl in the bathroom. So the school just moved him to a different school, the district, and he did it again at the different school. And then the father got arrested when he brought it up to the administration.
No.
But that doesn't have anything to do with teachers teaching a curriculum.
No,
I mean,
you're correct. But that's where parents are saying, wait a second, what is going on? Because they opened up I think it was a gender neutral bathroom that allowed that to happen. He did it in, you know. So, and I'm not saying that's not dependent on any one person. That's just saying, I'm just giving the point of the parents. The parents are saying, this is ran away from us. My values aren't being expressed when I'm forced to send my child to this building.
What I wish parents would do is come in if they have questions, to come and talk to us as your child's teacher and say, can I look and see some of the things that you are teaching? Can I come and observe for a day? Like, I think most any teacher would be willing and happy to show you these things. We want you involved in your child's education, and schools do a lot of things to involve families, and we want you to come to parent-teacher conferences and school activities. And I think teachers are frustrated because we see a lot of families doing that. And then having all these questions about, well, what are you doing?
Well, and I agree. It's not, we've got to admit that even the parent side, it's not just the school administration or teachers or the system's fault, because parents kind of slid in and got lax with the system.
I know in Brazil, like, my friend can pull up her phone and watch her little kid in preschool or whatever and just see what's going on.
That's interesting.
Now, you brought up a fantastic point, and I wish parents would get more involved.
Yeah, and I think really when it comes to what this bill is focusing on, you want transparency in education, then get involved.
Yeah, I think a bill is probably the wrong solution for what we're desiring. I really think so. And I think I read a post you had earlier where there's lots of a post you had on Facebook. There's lots of options in schools and that. But what if, like, how many fourth grade classrooms are there in your school?
We have 3 classes per grade.
3 classes. So what if there was a selection criteria for classroom? Like, say someone wants their more traditional local Mormon values taught. Say there was a teacher that held a classroom that way, and then there was one that could go the other way. You could have an option in how your values were expressed. Because my big concern is, again, when it boils down to it, parents are legally, financially, and medically liable for those kids. And they're forced to be put in another building. So I believe if you are going to carry those liabilities, your values should still be expressed as you want them.
I think we need to draw a line as to what the teacher's job is, like the line between, what is a value, and because really our job is not necessarily, I mean, you bring in religion, we can't teach religion.
Oh, I know.
Sorry. Let me rephrase that. We can't preach religion.
True.
Like in fourth grade, I have to teach Utah history, and you can't teach Utah history without teaching about the LDS Church.
That is true. But okay, so in 2005, a decision was made that secularism is going to be the stance of schools. Some teachers, I'm not pointing any fingers at anybody, but some teachers have taken that to the extreme, and they teach the exact opposite side of that. And a lot of that is coming out when you've got teachers in Denver saying, we're going to have a week of Black Lives Matter, and we're going to espouse. This came out not just in Fox News. This came out openly. This was their stance. We're going to espouse the fundamentalisms of Karl Marx. That's where they took it the other way. And now some parents may enjoy that. Right?
Yeah.
But that's, again, in my opinion, teaching another religion.
In California, they do like indigenous barbarian rituals, don't they? Like in their classrooms with the students. I remember seeing it.
They were doing Aztec chants.
Okay, isn't that religious though?
Sure. I guess. I mean, they didn't.
Well, like
They didn't follow through.
our dual immersion schools here.
Yeah. What?
They-
Let's go about that. What are you guys? What's your language?
Settlement Canyon is not dual immersion.
Oh, it's not?
So yeah, our school is one of the few in the district that does not teach another language.
Really?
Um,
Or does that? How did that come about at settlement?
I think the district just decided which schools were going to.
You
have
guys got
the
a skate
language
park, and the other kids get to learn French and German.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. So, but like the schools that do have a language, I mean, they celebrate some of the traditions and cultures of that area that they are they're learning about. So like celebrating the Lunar New Year, or things that go along
Well,
with
yeah.
that country. And
We've got Chinese
Mhm.
in which schools?
North Lake has
North Lake.
Mandarin.
Mandarin. So, and we just celebrated. It's Chinese New Year just happened. I'll
Yep.
bet that was a good time over there.
I'm sure it was.
I
But
bet they had paper dragons and all sorts of
Mhm.
fun.
Lots of fireworks, right?
my students were like, "Hey, it's a Lunar New Year. Can we celebrate?"
And you
And
teach fourth grade as
I
well.
teach second grade.
Second grade.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my school is not dual immersion in so much that, I mean, dual immersion's a whole separate program where half the day is taught in that language.
Mm-hmm.
But we do teach Spanish at our school. The students get a half an hour every day of that Spanish instruction, and they do celebrate the Hispanic cultures in some of the traditions that they might honor through that.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's fantastic. The dual immersion. I've got nieces and nephews that are involved in it. They're both learning French, and they love it. They, and they talk to me in French all the time.
And we're so far behind in language capacity here in America. I mean, you go to Europe and they're speaking 8 languages over there in Amsterdam at the bar.
Well, that's
Just
because
serve me
if
a
you
beer.
trip, you wake up in a different country.
Yeah, we are one of the few countries in the what I don't know what word I'm looking for, but we are one of the few countries in the civilized world that have our education system that does not end our kids at least bilingual at the end of it.
Yeah, that's something that I think. Well, hopefully, we're starting to answer that.
Yeah.
One, I think teaching them young, it gets their mind to develop in different ways. But anyways, back to the bill.
So that was one bill. There was 2 more, you said.
Well, and one was at the district level, correct? The 157, wasn't that?
Oh.
Well, what 157 is a completely different ballgame. The Senate Bill 114 is the one that's more at the district level, and
Okay.
it's not quite put on the teachers as much, but it's expecting the district to have up front the curriculum you're using and not. I mean, what I read through it, I didn't study it quite as deeply as I did 234 coming into this, but what I read from it, it's not as contestable in that. I mean, what people are asking for with that bill, we already do a lot of.
Okay.
And
So it's just
so-
codifying.
Yeah, I mean, if there are schools out there that don't, then I can't speak to those. But every school I've worked at and been privy to being in and a part of, all that bill is asking for is things that we already do. Putting your
Okay.
curriculum out there, making it available. When you select a new curriculum, allowing for an approval process that parents can be involved in, and all that already happens.
Okay.
So
Okay. That so that's just kind of codifying it. Not.
yeah,
I like the idea of. One, I really like the idea of putting. If we're going to put responsibilities like this, I like the idea of putting it on the district, even though the district. Let's face it, if we're getting ripped off by one group in the county, it's a school district. It's not the teachers. It's not the roads crews. Well, okay, maybe it's the cones, the cone sellers.
the Utah State
But
flag.
our districts are swollen, and I'm sorry if I'm offending anyone talking about the districts, but they're swollen. They're extremely heavy. I mean, if it was a person, he'd look like he had a balloon head. But I think they could take the challenge of taking on some of that responsibility and lining it out. That being said, I don't like the idea that what they would end up doing is maybe running roughshod over the teachers because of that. So
Yeah. And I would make one note, being a charter school and only having ever worked in charter. We are our own district. We're
Oh.
not part of Tooele County School District. Scholar Academy is, like, if you want to codify us with a district, our district is Scholar Academy.
Okay.
And so when you say all of that stuff gets put down on the district, in charter schools, it's still just put right onto the school.
So would the teachers eat that in the end?
Hard to say. I mean, admin only runs so deep, and the responsibilities would probably get, divvied out amongst others.
Okay.
What about coaches? Do they have to post a curriculum of how many sit-ups they're going to make their kids do every practice, or whether they're going to give a pep talk? Do they have to go through the same rigor?
Well, it better be at least 30 sit-ups, and no, I would imagine not. I haven't read anything in the bills that directly reflects upon the after-school extracurricular activities, so I would imagine that they're still
They get away.
Yeah, to a point. I mean, as far as PE class goes, they probably get wrapped into it all, but the after-school, like your football coaches and basketball coaches, I don't think are dealt with in this bill.
Well, let's remember most of your athletic coaches also teach a class, so
Yeah.
that's probably where it gets wrapped in.
Well, in fact, that's one of the precursors, I think, to at least being a head coach, is that you have to teach at the school.
Yep. Granted, when I was in high school, I think our coaches, I did have one football coach in Granger. I think he was an English teacher. That was interesting, but most of the rest taught.
My football coaches were all driver's ed.
Driver's ed?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had one that was, Grantsville, I think he taught special ed. I'm trying to remember. But anyways.
My wrestling coach was an English teacher.
Yeah?
Shout out Coach Geisler.
Yeah. So what do you guys, what do you think could be done? What do you think would be a better option? I mean, we talked about parents coming in and getting involved, but if they're questioning, and honestly, I don't think we have this issue in the county here. I don't.
Well, I do think that the biggest thing is for parents to come and get involved. And I know, like, I don't know, I'm not trying to bring up like a hot button topic, but like I know a big curriculum that has made parents very upset and worried about what's being taught is Second Steps.
What is that?
That could be a whole other podcast.
You're going to have to fill us in, because this is brand new to me.
So it is our character
it's
development program.
Social emotional learning is what it's called.
Yeah. So parents have been very upset about this program in Utah and in our county, because they have felt like it is teaching things that are not appropriate for their children.
Like, what is it teaching?
Well, that would be where coming in and learning about the curriculum would make a big difference, because a lot of what they think it's teaching, it's not.
Well, what do they think it's teaching then?
Well, I think a lot of the problem has been with more of the junior high lessons. And there were some problematic links that parents were concerned about that our district did remove from. So like I teach second grade, and I've taught it now, and I've taught the kindergarten and first grade one. I've taught for 9 years, and I've used this program the whole time. From my perspective, those three grades, there's been nothing problematic in this curriculum. You get like a card, and it has some talking points. And so I think the links that parents are upset about have been like deeper down in that probably most teachers were never even using. Yeah. They were like extra resources, like, oh, you could go visit this website.
So, what is it?
Yeah, what is it?
So
You've got to break it down.
This suspense is killing me.
Okay. So for the most part, the social emotional learning is just teaching kids how to be good to each other. Teaching them how to, like the lesson that I taught just recently was how to join a game that you're not already a part of. And things like
Not
that.
a gang.
Game.
Game.
But how to join a game. Like the kids are out playing soccer and you want to play with them, but you're not in the game. How do you become a part of that? And different strategies for for understanding how to interact with other kids, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, if you're having a problem, what's the best way to go about solving that, and you know, conflict resolution. Like she had a coworker the other day, and I no okay
Don't go there.
well okay
Do they have a second steps for the adults?
Because actually, it sounds like something we could use.
well
Oh,
that's part of the
tell me
reason that they're
about it.
trying to implement it so much into the elementaries, is so that when
Well,
these
they-
kids
yeah.
become adults,
We want to be
they're
20
able
years
to-
from now better
Yeah.
off. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I mean-
what are the parents? What is the?
So the link that everybody was upset about was there was a link that linked to like some LGBTQ positive like website that
okay.
had some sexual like health and knowledge that there were, and I did click on it because I was like, what is everyone freaking out about? And there was some more adult type content that I was like, I don't know if this is really what junior high kids
Well, I
need
remember that
to be
comic
getting
book I
into.
got that you got at your place. I picked up a comic book that's taught in some schools, and it's crazy. I got this because I got it off of a list of books in schools. Now, when I looked at it, I can't remember where I got the list, but it wasn't in any Utah schools. But it's a racist book. It's a total anti-white racist and anti-American book, and I'm just like, whoa. And it's taught in and it's an elementary school. It's a cartoon book, you know, like a See Tom Roll Down the Hill book, but it's heinous.
What was the book?
It's not my fault, or not my, I can't remember.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd have to dig it up. I'll be honest, I lost interest.
well, you know, Mouse is all the rage right now.
Yeah, what's this
What
mouth
is
about?
Mouse? Explain this.
Well, I only know surface level of it, but from what I understand, it's a book that teaches the story of the author's grandparents through they were Jews during the Nazi time period, and it tells their grandparents' story, where it's told through cats and mice rather than people, and the cats are the Nazis, the mice are the Jews.
And no one's a communist, right?
Sure.
No, that's Animal Farm.
Oh.
This is about the other side of it. Go on.
Yeah, but you know, I guess there were a couple. There was like one. It's a graphic novel, so it's kind of a comic based thing, which is why I was wondering if that's where you were going. But I guess there's one scene where the mouse is like topless or something amongst all of these, like they're in the process of killing, like the cats are killing the mice, the Nazis are killing the Jews, and there's these dead bodies everywhere, and all of the outrage is over this topless mouse.
That is a good point, because I've noticed this about our society too. Like,
Hang on a second.
we'll have like these shows of like mass murder and blood and guts, and then some girl pops out her boobs, and then all of a sudden we are social justice warriors. I guess that's a different topic for a different podcast, but yeah, that's pervasive in schools as well. I mean, we're talking about killing people, and modesty becomes the center of
It
our
was
focus.
a cartoon mouse without a shirt on.
I haven't actually seen the frame. We looked into getting the book, and it's like $60 on Amazon.
You're
right
kidding
now,
me.
So,
Oh yeah,
No.
like to #1 seller right
Oh, well,
now.
yeah.
Go down to the library.
I would wonder if the Tooele Library has it.
I
but,
guarantee that lady, you tell her you need to see it, she'll get it for you.
well, then it's probably
Jamie's
going to
pretty
be
awesome.
checked.
Jamie is above awesome.
Yeah.
She
Well,
is.
yeah.
If that is the rage right now, is a topless mouse, I feel
Isn't-
like we're doing all right.
Well, didn't we just change Mickey's clothes or Minnie's clothes?
Minnie now wears a pantsuit rather than
She
a skirt.
does?
Okay, so it's not. We didn't change Mickey's clothes.
No, Mickey's not wearing a skirt yet.
Of course, Mickey's a boy, so he topless is okay for him. Cause,
Yeah.
Well, no, but anyways, so this mouse book, the anger is over the topless dead
Yeah.
mouse, and the anger isn't about
I think it, and maybe it's like some language and stuff in there too. But
like does it curse or something?
I think so.
What's the age group it's geared towards?
I would guess high school kids.
maybe junior,
Yeah,
junior high.
yeah, young adult.
And maybe that's something that we could correct that, because I don't. Okay, on to another subject. I think in school libraries that should be controlled in there also, because that's, again, my whole thing is you are not a free parent when you have to send your child somewhere and lose. Not that every parent maintains control of their child throughout the day, but you're forced to lose control of your child throughout the day. I think you should be able to maintain what morality standards you're around your child.
Can I ask you a question about, like,
You bet.
I mean, you said that you feel like as a parent, you lose the control and freedom of your child because you're forced to send your kid to
Yes.
school. And is that because you feel like not every parent has the option to homeschool, or?
Well, there's a
Because-
couple things. Here's a couple arguments on that. One, if you don't send your kid to school or set up homeschool options, you can be ultimately sent to jail or murdered for it. You got to remember, every law at the end of that law is a gun. That's just period. You know, I get a fine. What if I don't pay that fine? Well, then I go to jail. What if I refuse to go to jail?
If you use
What's at the
Bitcoin
end-
the wrong way, they'll
what's
come in
at the
through
end
your
of that?
house with a machine and machine guns. I mean,
But
that's
back to the
that's
point.
law.
So let's say you decide to homeschool, right? Now you are taxed. You are taxed a certain amount. If you choose to homeschool, that tax money doesn't follow your kid to your home. That means you take on an extra burden, or that child does, without some of the resources it would otherwise have.
Okay, I just wanted to understand your perspective on that.
And that is my complete perspective. Now, I believe I don't like compulsory education. I think compulsory education in some places is okay, I guess, but I'm not a fan of it. And then I think if you're going to strip someone of their rights of something, yet they still maintain all of the liabilities by force, it's kind of a schizophrenic option. And that's the one we run with.
What do you mean by maintain all of the liabilities?
Let's say,
Because
Well,
for
let's-
8 hours a day,
Uh-huh.
I am liable for the 26 kids that are in my class.
sure, you're liable.
Yeah.
Let's say one of them falls on their chair and gets hurt. Do you pay that medical bill?
The school does.
Does the school? Because I'm pretty damn sure the parents would get the medical bill
Well,
from the hospital.
I mean, it depends on what was going on and what insurances are involved. But if it was, especially if it was a school related,
Because I don't know
accident,
any kid that fell in the playground and the parents didn't have to pay for that cast.
I've
I don't
never
know.
dealt with a
I'm
kid.
Okay,
that,
but that's okay. And it's fine. Also, let's say little Sally reads Rat or whatever the book was called and decides to, pull her shirt up, whatever, gets into legal trouble. That legal trouble still comes back on the parents in the end. That's what I mean by still carrying the liability. Liability ends at the ultimate end and I'm not saying I want the liability to be transferred somewhere else. I'm just saying that if you're going to have liability still here, I want to keep some morality control there. And yes, some kids are buttholes. Some parents are buttholes. They are. And there's not a lot you can do about that, but we can't. I don't think it's positive to gauge a society around some people can't meet the standards. Just like the bilingual thing. The reason the U.S. is not bilingual is because we were the dominant nation with the dominant dollar, so we felt we didn't need to. And that's because we leaned into the weaker standard.
So I think if you want to bring in guiding what, as you say, morality is taught within the classroom.
Yeah, morality.
But
I don't like using that word, though, because I carry none of it. Maybe ethics would be a better word.
Okay, I'll give you that. But where does the line get drawn between parent and teacher insofar that how much of the parenting of your child am I supposed to do? And why is it that I, as the teacher, like your ethics if you have specific of ethics and morals that you want taught, why isn't that taught better at home?
Yeah, well, it's not necessarily that I want my ethics taught at home. I don't want opposing ethics taught somewhere else. And I'm not saying teachers do. There has been certain instances of that.
So, okay.
I don't know of any locally. I don't know of a one locally, honestly,
Well,
except for maybe the string of football coaches we have that like teenage girls.
Well, yeah, that's a completely. Yeah.
I think either we need to get uglier cheerleaders or
I heard you talk about this on
Yeah.
one of the podcasts I listened to.
we need to figure something else out, because Grantsville and Tooele had a pretty rough go of it in the last 15 years.
That would then, I think, come in, Drawn, where there's going to be a whole string of debates and arguments as far as what the ethics are. And
That's a good question. I don't know.
I mean, I realize that I can't stand up and, preach about Black Lives Matter, because that organization is not, everything they stand for is not necessarily acceptable for what's in the classroom. But is it okay for me to stand up and talk about how Black Lives Matter? And maybe not use those specific words, but they do. And I think that it deserves to be taught that, the civil rights movement and fighting for equal rights for everybody, that is not something that I think is debatable. Like, if you want to say that your ethics are white people are better than black people, and that's what you want me to teach, I'm out.
No, and I agree. Let me ask you this. Let's say you're in Syracuse, New York, and you're a teacher there after BLM rolled through and you saw the videos of them beating up the store owners. Do you think maybe parents might have a little bit of umbrance with you teaching that BLM is a good organization?
See, and that's where I think we draw the line of, I mean, having coined the phrase and made the words Black Lives Matter the name of their organization, you got to be careful about how those words get thrown around.
I think if we have a basic ethics, humans are humans.
Yeah.
And that's my stance on it.
I mean, as an educator, I'm already not legally allowed to for lack of a better word, preach about the organization Black Lives Matter. I can't tell you that what they stand for is.
Where aren't you legally allowed? Is that just in Utah?
Well,
or?
I mean, I can't.
We are supposed to be politically neutral as a teacher. A student shouldn't know that, whether I am Republican, Democrat, whether I like Trump or Biden or any of those things, that's not relevant to me as their teacher. And the second that I let my personal beliefs come out in the classroom, I'm ostracizing every kid who comes from a family that has an opposite point of view.
I couldn't imagine a teacher saying anything political when I was in second grade and me knowing what they were talking about.
You would be surprised the number of kids who come in parroting what they hear their parents say at home.
It's pretty clear to figure out which kids come from.
Go Trump or let's go Brandon. I mean, we hear it all in the classroom, whether they know what they're saying or not.
Yeah. Well, I just wonder, because we've seen a lot of, videos have come out of teachers doing exactly that.
Well, right.
Well,
and I think that's where this is boiling down to.
So if we want to bring it back to the bill where this originally started, the transparency in education, there are teachers, say the one in wherever it was, Salt Lake or wherever, that just earlier this year who went off on the rant about the COVID vaccine, and the high school student filmed her, and that was ethically wrong. And that teacher should not have done that. And things should have happened for that. But we don't need a transparency bill to say that, because those statutes are already in place. And that teacher should have, and I believe was, fired for what happened, because I can't come in and spout my political beliefs. At the end of the day, with the Trump and Biden election, I came in the next day and I said, I don't really care what side of this you were on. That doesn't matter. What matters is we have a new president now. And I said the same thing when Trump became president. Like, the kids did not know, is he Republican or Democrat? That doesn't matter. I'm an American, and I'm going to respect our process, and we are going to respect the office.
Yeah, and I don't know if I agree with the teachers being fired, because like
Well,
you said in your statement, you guys have gone through school and training.
Yeah.
You guys are in a profession.
Well, and maybe fired is not necessarily the
Would
right,
there be
the
a
right
way to-
course of action.
would there-
But for somebody who comes in and spouts off their political side like that, there needs to be some kind of something.
Is there something? But anyways, back to it. So, I think what I'd like to do is see if we can't find solutions. Solutions to ease the parents' stresses. Solutions. Honestly, I'd like to find a solution so that you hear all the time teachers have to work past their contractual hours. How do we find a solution for that?
I honestly
what
don't
is-
know that there is one.
what
Because
is
I've
the
been
gap?
doing this for 13 years now, and I still go in. I got a message from her this morning, like, why did you go in at 6 this morning? I got stuff to do.
Well,
And-
what is it? But we should get into that in a minute. But what are some, throw out some solutions, and we've got to remember these solutions have to be doable on both sides. They have to be attainable solutions.
Solutions to easing parents'
We will.
fears about what's being taught and the burden placed on teachers. Is that the solution you're asking for?
Is there a happy medium that can be met in there? Because these bills are coming up because of parents are feeling stressed, and in Utah there has been some parents who have felt that
So
their child has been taught things that are non-conducive with what they would like taught.
I would think that the first line of finding a happy medium is for the channels of communication to be more open. And I mean that not so much, at least, I mean, I can only talk from personal perspective, what I do and how my classroom is run. But we have a syllabus that we put out at the start of every year that tells you what we're going to teach. The state of Utah has posted online the core curriculum that I am required by their statutes to be an educator in Utah to teach. So you want to know what I'm going to be teaching, you can go to uen.org/core, and you can look up everything from driver's ed to language arts. And it will tell you what I'm going to be teaching in my classroom. It's not going to tell you exactly how, but it will tell you what I'm teaching.
Will it tell me the color bow tie that day?
You know, it depends. It depends on my mood. but I mean, so again, I'm talking only personal what I do, but I have a website that I keep up that has my weekly schedule on it. I update that
So you also have your own website that
Yes.
parents can go to.
Yeah, and I update it weekly, wherein they can go to that website and they can see exactly what topics I'm going to be covering that week. We're going to be reading from Esperanza Rising. We're going to be learning about the past tense form of the verb to be. We're learning about simplifying fractions. We're learning about comparing and ordering fractions. Right now in Utah history, we're learning about the ancient Native American tribes. In science, we're currently learning about rocks and fossils and earthquakes.
You're learning about ancient American tribes like the Fremonts and
Like today was specifically the Paiutes, the ancient Paiute
yeah.
tribes.
Have you
is
been
this
out?
on you though? Is this your doing or is this a
No,
requirement?
this is the core that the state requires us to teach.
On a side note, have you been out to any of the Indian drawings locally?
Not locally, no.
I'm talking about your website where you actually inform the parent.
Oh,
And that I don't know. That's a school requirement.
So
They
your
have
school
that
your-
for us.
your school, does your school make you maintain a website or?
Our school has us communicate in a way that we choose to. So, like, we
Yeah.
send out a
Carrier pigeon? Is that where you
Yes,
went for?
We send out carrier pigeons to parents every week. No, we
Off
send
the-
out a newsletter
Off the selection sheet.
every week that so my grade level sends out a newsletter every week that covers, what are we learning in math, what are we learning in literacy, and then I use an app called Class Dojo, and I communicate with my parents, I message them, And I honestly think that's the solution. It's not legislation, it's not bills, it's communication. We had a second grade parent who was concerned about second steps and what was being taught and had some fears around it. And she reached out to the teacher and was like, I really want to, I don't know if I want my student to participate in this. And her and the teacher just like talked and had a conversation. And she's like, these are the things I'm covering in second grade. And if you want to come and look at the lessons, the curriculum, you want to look it through and make sure, and ultimately the parent decided, I trust you as the teacher. And I know that, you aren't teaching. So it really is just these communication. And I think everybody's getting wrapped up in these, these few stories that we're seeing go viral from a teacher going off the cusp about something.
Well,
and
I mean,
causing
you said it
mistrust.
earlier, wildfires spread. And, you have a few isolated incidences that are now trying to run what hundreds of teachers in the state have to do.
Well, it's painted the whole education
Yeah.
system. And that's why I'm hoping we can head this off the pass, is what I'm hoping we can do. Because one, I don't think I don't think a bill is the correct answer where it's going to make the teacher kind of go erratic with what they have to do. One, it's going to pull away from the education time or, time on will. But I do think that if we can do something, if something can be done that would allow the parents to be satiated. I do know from personal account, a friend of mine who has an 11-year-old daughter got the maturation class notification, which 11 sex ed, when I was in school, they taught us as we left our senior year, like they hand us the thing and they said,
Yeah, nowadays it starts, maturation itself starts in 5th grade.
Yeah, they said
they don't necessarily cover it as sex ed at that point. It's more about body awareness and puberty, which is up and coming.
But they said, I think they said flies spread disease, so keep yours closed, and handed us a rolled up. But anyways,
I'm still waiting for my parents to have the talk with me. So
yeah, I think my dad said, don't wear too much perfume. It makes them dance further away or something. But anyways, what I'm saying is, when they got this notification, they said, oh, can I look at the syllabus or whatever, the class? And they said, oh, we don't have that prepared for parents. So they neglected to send their student to this, where that is, I think, one where even if I was a parent, I'd like to know, okay, where are we going with this?
Well, and that might be something that they have to reach out to somebody else to get, because I know we teachers don't teach that at my school, at least. The teachers do not teach that. There is a nurse that's brought in to teach that program.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I cannot tell you what exactly is going to be taught in it, because we bring in a nurse, an outside nurse that teaches that service.
Okay.
But if a parent wants to, they can come into the class and observe.
Well, we actually, and both of the schools I've taught in my 13 years, not required, recommended that parents attend the maturation class with them.
Oh, God, no.
But they recommended that the parent come in and attend it with them, so that the conversations that should happen at home can happen at home.
Right.
I mean, because maturation is a whole other topic that, it's a lot deeper than you want to dive into in the public classroom.
I mean, so much has been
Every
put on
father would say,
teachers.
you're washing your own socks from here on out.
Now, if we can go in and observe the students in their class, in their native environment with their teacher, would you be opposed to just having the class recorded and the parent can have access to that video?
I mean, I, for one, probably have an unpopular opinion here, and I'll just say that you want to put a video camera into my classroom, fine. Because all that's going to do is show you how your kid acts throughout the day, which I'm sure is different than they act at home.
Honestly, that's what I would more want it for.
But like I said, I know that that's an unpopular opinion, because other teachers are going to feel different about having a camera in their classroom. But I've got nothing to hide. My door is always open. If you can just pop in, don't tell me you're coming. Come in unannounced. Come in, have a seat. You can watch what's going on. And I think that most teachers probably feel the same way. We're not trying to hide anything.
Yeah,
And this bill that is, this transparency and public education bill, I see it more as a bill for control that's masquerading as that's masquerading for transparency that's already there.
What kind of control do you think they're going for?
You want to bring in Senate Bill 157 real quick?
Yeah.
Tell us about
it. That one, let me see if you don't mind.
I
Let
can
me
pull it up right here.
because I've got it just right here. Let's see. In accordance with the rights and responsibilities of a parent as described in section whatever, a parent may opt out and withdraw the parent's child from the use of or participation in any public education matter or material that the parent determines objectionable, including curriculum, subject matter, textbooks, or activities identified by the parent as objectionable.
And we have someone in our audience here telling us that there's an opt-out option for the maturation class.
The maturation, the note that he was talking about is actually a permission slip.
They send it home. Hey, maturation class is in 2 weeks.
And if the child does not have that signed permission slip, they don't participate in the maturation class.
Now, what's this opt-out thing?
But the Senate Bill 157 is basically the way it's currently written. Parents can choose to opt their kid out of anything they find objectionable. I don't think they're going to need fractions. I'm going to opt them out of it. Don't teach them math this month.
Or I don't like Common Core math, so we're not doing that. I don't know. It reminded me of when you were saying, you have your ethics and you don't want different opposing ethics taught to your kids.
Well, and
but we have 30 kids and all of the parents' ethics are not going to align.
That's what I mean.
Point of views. So how do I cater that for every kid in my class?
But I don't
Good
think
luck, right?
math is an ethical thing.
Well, right.
Well, no, it's not. But this bill does not specify.
Yeah. See, now
the bill is very open-ended as far as if they choose it, if they deem it objectionable. I don't want you teaching about the civil rights movement. I'm going to opt my kid out of that.
See, now, okay.
Or, I don't want you teaching about the Holocaust. I'm going to opt you out of that. Like, it's
Yeah,
rewriting
and
history.
Giving
parents the choice to rewrite history.
I agree. Although, just because of me having been a student at one time and then me being an adult and studying history, we already rewrote it. Don't worry about
this
it.
is true. I mean,
you're going to, honestly, I look back at my history teachers and I wonder, did they know and they just had to follow a thing?
The more I learn as an adult, the more I realize I don't know.
Yeah. But anyways, what I mean by the ethics thing is like when the vaccine, that's a big ethical thing in our nation right now.
Mm-hmm.
This is a real touchy one. The LGBT. Yeah, thank you. All of that. I think that teaching everyone to be blanket, kind, and accepting of everyone is fine. With that, you don't have to focus in on one particular sexuality, color, age, race.
And I think that's what's most important as far as ethics go.
But that's been lost in a lot of circumstances. Not, I wouldn't even say in most. I wouldn't even say in half. But it has been lost in a few circumstances, I should say. And that's where parents are seeing this, because that stuff, the news is going to broadcast that because it gets eyes on them.
Well, it's in everything now. Netflix. I mean, you can't watch a Netflix show without seeing homosexuality or a transgender space cadet or something.
So let me ask you a question, because I have had students with parents of the same sex. I have two moms, two dads.
I've got very good friends that are in the same situation.
So, I mean, should I not be able to read a book that shows different kinds of families? Does that student not deserve to see that family is a valid family?
I believe those books are just fine. What I'm talking about is,
It's a tough question though too, because we got to you got to define when the right age is to talk about that stuff, and it doesn't seem like it seems like we want to push it younger and younger and younger.
I think that this is whatever, but age appropriately, I think it's a discussion that can be had at any age. We have kids coming into schools, at kindergarten, first, second grade, whatever, that are transgender, and so we're talking an 8-year-old.
How do you,
But then there's your line of like, well, where do we? Because maybe parent A ethically disagrees with that.
let me ask you a
But parent
question.
B has the kid that is.
Let me ask a question about an 8-year-old transgender, because that tells me that we need to wonder what's been going on in their home.
I would disagree with
Because
that.
at
but
8
okay.
years old, I knew there was a difference between boys and
the
girls,
kid-
but I had no clue of
the kid,
what that
the
meant.
kid may not understand exactly what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
but all it's saying is, okay, maybe that child was born a boy, but what if that child wants to wear dresses? And maybe they're not going to say I'm transgender, but they're going to be like, well, I don't feel I don't feel comfortable in shorts. I would rather wear dresses. I would
And-
rather have
and
long
that's-
hair. I would rather.
That's fine. I would argue against. I
feel
would
like
argue against putting it in their mind at such a young age that
as a
you're born not the way you're supposed to be.
I just think as a cisgendered person, we don't have the understanding of what it is like to feel that different.
I was an 8-year-old, and I
But-
knew. I knew that
But-
I know
but-
it was 100 years ago, but I knew that I didn't know anything difference between boys and girls at 8. I had a sister that was 13 months behind me, and I knew the only difference between me and her is she was twice as smart as I was, and that was it.
But there are parents out there who will push. So if if their boy wants to play with dolls, they won't let them. 'Cause
Sure,
that's a girl thing.
sure, and there are parents
and
who will
so-
push the other way too. I mean, let's look at Desmond. If he ends up not doing a mass murder suicide on his mom, I don't know what's going to happen.
I'm not sure who you're referring to there.
Desmond, the boy who his mom was signing him up to do the strip teases to the old men.
I have missed that story somewhere along the way. I've been too wrapped up in education bills, I guess.
I confess, I used to have GI Joes that would ride My Little Ponies with my niece, and we'd play with them.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if my son comes to me and wants to, there's a certain doll that he wants, I'm not going to tell him no. Sure, you can play with that, whatever. You want an American girl doll? Great. If my daughter comes to me and wants the G.I. Joe, or she wants the Transformer, or she wants the whatever, I'm not going to say no. And I'm just going to let them, I'm going to let them be kids and express
I
themselves
think he
how
was
they
10
want.
years old when his mom was having him give strip teases to adult men, and she just did it for notoriety, and it was.
I don't disagree with you that.
So I wonder.
that there are.
So they're both. So I like that happy medium. You teach acceptance. If that little boy or that little girl wants to dress as the other, do the other things. If that little girl wants to throw a football, we've always been accepting of that, right?
Yeah.
We've always been accepting of the girl who wants the bicycle with the high cross frame, and she wants to ride the jumps.
And
So
I
the-
think you bring a good point there. We're far more accepting of
So do
the,
we-
the girl than. So we're far more accepting of tomboy girls than we are of whatever the opposite is
Yes,
for boys.
but so instead, what we do is, if a boy feels more comfortable playing with dolls, we tell him you must have been born wrong.
I don't think so.
If we
don't-
tell
I
him
don't
you're
think-
transgender,
I don't.
that
think,
is exactly what you're saying. Instead
I
of saying
don't.
you're
I don't think we need to tell them anything. I think
Yeah.
we just need to let them freely
and
express themselves
honestly,
how they want to express
that stuff
themselves.
happens at home more. That's why I'm saying we got to worry about home. Like if he wants to wear a dress and his mom says, "Oh, you must have been born as a girl," and we need to put medication in you. I think that's a little scary.
Well, I think there's all kinds of factors that play into this, and this is a really big
Yeah,
topic.
we're opening up a different
That's
can
true.
of worms
That's
than
true.
we originally started.
We got a lot of cans. But it's an important topic because I feel like our society is at the point where we're grooming. We are grooming kids. I mean, like I said, I can't even turn on Netflix without watching. They have to have a transgender character and a homosexual character, and
But kids are going to encounter these people in their daily lives, and they should know to treat them with respect. And I think having that representation is a good thing.
is it representation or is it normalization?
Well, I think normalization is a good thing.
What's it different? What's the difference?
Oh, I mean, me personally, I have very close friends who are both lesbian and homosexual male, and I'm just fine with it. I have no issue with that. What I worry about, I just worry about the kid. If someone's an adult and says, "Hey, I'm transgender," I think they've got a list of experiences to help them meet that. But I just worry about an 8-year-old.
Well, I just don't think it's my place as the adult. I don't know the kid. I don't know the family. I don't know what's been said.
And that is true.
So, maybe they were, they were born with.
And I wouldn't
they
want
had to make-
I wouldn't want to put those. I wouldn't want to put it on the teacher to
No, I wouldn't.
reinforce it or to exclude it. I would want to put it on the teacher to say, I'm going to come into the classroom, open your books to page 12. Today we are talking about the tapeworm, and that's it.
I think if we bring this back to where you started, as the teacher, we teach kindness.
Mm-hmm.
And if Billy is going to come to school in a skirt, then you're going to be nice to him because that's none of your business.
Yeah.
And if Susie wants to play football at recess, then you're going to be nice to her because that's none of your business. Your job is to be kind.
Yep.
And hands down, that's what matters.
I 100% agree with you. My fear would be the conversation where we say, you know what, maybe we should try wearing dresses.
See, and I don't think
stuff.
that conversation happens.
I hope not. God, I hope
Not in school, at least. That no, like that would be one of those rants about the COVID vaccine. That, I mean, if you're getting to that point, that's like, okay, well, all boys, let's wear dresses tomorrow. That's not a classroom discussion, and that's something that needs to have action taken toward it.
And I really don't think there are that many parents trying to convince their kids that they're transgender.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're taking cues from how their kids feel and what their kids are expressing. So I don't think that's as big as a fear as maybe people think.
Just
Now,
so
maybe
long as you
there
don't
are
have that
some,
10-year-old
like,
stripping
really-
for adult men.
right.
Huh?
Maybe there are some extreme cases of the opposite, but I think
there are extremes of everything.
There are.
You're right.
But I wanted to come back and derail this for a minute. So you were just teaching local indigenous people history, right? There's a couple places out here in Tooele that have some.
I'm loving this talk, by the way. It makes my ADHD brain happy because
Yeah.
we're all over the place.
Are you sure it's not the Bloody Marys?
Maybe, I don't know.
Well, we've got the Red Man over there. That's over in Tempe Canyon, right on the other side of Grantsville.
that's cool.
We'll have to go and check these out.
Yeah, I
I
can.
didn't. I mean, I'm a fairly new transplant to Tooele. I've only been here 6 years now,
Okay.
so new to the area, but I'm finding it more and more home as I get here.
Good.
Out of my comfort zone originally. I wouldn't have thought I'd ever gotten to Tooele, but we do crazy things for love.
So you're from Tooele?
Yeah, I grew up here for most of my life. I moved here when I was like in 6th grade.
Can I ask you guys how you met?
We have a mutual friend
Mm-hmm.
that he was basically her uncle. There's pictures of her holding him as a baby. Or there's pictures of him holding her as a baby.
Man, how rough is that?
I
She's
know,
laying there in the
right?
crib. He comes in, does like a suplex right on top of the crib. And
But he was the dare officer at my school up in Syracuse, up in Davis County. And one school year, the start of the year, we were, I don't know, whatever was going on. He comes up to me and says, "Hey, Aaron, I got a favor to ask of you. There's this girl I know she's going through some crap and having a real hard time. And will you just, reach out to her and friend request her on Facebook because I want her to see that there are still good people left in the world."
That's cool.
And
So you're from Utah. It's not like you're.
yeah, no, I'm from Utah, just not
Okay.
from the Tooele area.
He's from Searsicus.
So, yeah.
I used to work construction with a guy who couldn't spell, and it was Searsicus every time. I was
All
like,
right.
But anyways, but yeah, they've got petroglyphs. This is Fremont Indian action.
Cool.
They believe the Fremonts are, old Indian. They haven't been around here in a while, or that we know of.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
that's the red
you're
man.
talking a couple thousand years ago.
Can you bring it up for the show, Jared?
I sure can.
Because everyone's listening to us talk about it, but they can't see it.
Yeah, I've just gotta find a page that'll let me.
And just FYI, if you ever want field trips for your kids, his father, he loves to give these
Yeah,
tours.
my dad runs the Donner Party Museum
Oh,
down in Grantsville. All right, give me just a second. We'll see what it pulls up when I get it there. But yeah, you got the red man, then down. Boom. Okay. And then you've got over there on the north side or the south end of the mountain range, just past the salt plant. They've got a whole bunch of them just scattered on the ground. But yeah, these are old petroglyphs. There's some over by Little Mountain in Grantsville. There's some out in Skull Valley. Whole bunch of stuff. But these are old, cool stuff. So just have to throw that out there any chance I get to talk about it.
I'll have to look into that.
I'll show you where it's at.
I mean, if nothing else, that would be something relatable that I can, bring up into class and say, hey, have your parents take you out for this.
Yeah.
Field trips are harder and harder. To
and
come
that's
by 'cause they're so
another thing you
expensive,
can
but-
do is you can give them directions, like cell phone directions to where these are, so you can go out on a weekend, explore, find these, drop a pin on your cell phone, and then just write down the directions for the students to take home,
Yeah.
and their parents can take them to it.
Yeah, technology is a cool thing.
Oh, it is. It
that
is.
is neat.
But anyway, so I back to the story, and then we're gonna have to go into some comments. There's some people yelling at me and Dave right now. But so I agree with you. I think the bills are probably not the correct answer to this. At least as they're written.
Mm-hmm.
I think there could be other answers, and I don't know what that would be. I think the answer is to get our nation back to a place where we're not so radically divided on every issue.
Oh my goodness, I wish we could.
And that's our big thing.
I wish it were possible for more people to come to the table and hold discussions like this, so that, because I think ultimately when you're not dropping messages on Facebook and on the internet, when you're more or less anonymous, it's a lot easier to realize that you're not as different as you think.
That's the big thing. I think our big political divide comes from our new means of communication that is borne out right now.
Yeah.
I think we're looking at another Gutenberg press, and we're about to hopefully not see the 30 Years' War. But that's what we're looking at. That's what we're looking at, a new means of communication. Martin Luther just pinned the 74 rules to the door. And so I'm hoping that we can figure out, I hope we can depoliticize, at least to the extent, because every argument has been on a political grounds.
Oh yeah.
Every one. And it doesn't matter. It's been sides chosen. Mm-hmm. Whoever gets to it first and chooses a side, the other will choose the exact opposite.
Yeah.
I mean, you could flip a coin as to who's on what side at any given time. So what are we looking at here,
I think ultimately, if I were to summarize my position on what we've talked about so far, number one, I think the answer is communication. Mm-hmm. And remembering that communication is a two-way street. Mm-hmm. Because I can send out emails till my fingers are bleeding, and generally speaking, I get zero response to them. And so I'm left to assume, and I think it's true in most cases, that the parents are perfectly fine with what's going on, and
Yeah.
and everything is all hunky dory.
Yeah, that is another good point. If
And-
the parent's not coming back to you with
And
concerns,
So
then
if if they
what are you
have
supposed to think?
concerns,
Bring them up.
bring them up. It is a two-way street, and I am always happy to respond to emails. Generally is the best because I hate talking on the phone, but I will take phone calls if you want. I will sit down and have meetings. I am more than happy to meet with you. I'm more than happy to have you in my classroom. You are more than welcome to come in and volunteer, work with the students, or if you just want to sit and watch, I don't care. I mean, I am not trying to hide anything, and I think most teachers are the same way. I don't think that laws are what we need. I don't think some transparency law is what we need. Really, that's the answer for everything.
well, hold on. That's a good thing you brought up there. We don't need any more laws.
Amen, brother. Amen.
And then
That's an important thing. See, you hit me right.
I
in
like
my-
to hear teachers say that.
You hit me right in my damn feels when you said that.
well, and I think beyond that, if we want to talk about ethics, kindness.
Yeah.
Everything boils back down to kindness. We do not have to agree on a damn thing, but we can address it with kindness. You might not agree with little Timmy wearing a skirt to school, but you can be nice to him.
You can be cool.
Yeah, like I don't care if you have these personal feelings against any race or anything. I mean, I do care, but that is your personal philosophy.
Well,
While you are here at school, you will be kind.
it's gonna be their loss in life.
Yeah,
What's
I
the
mean-
what's the new saying they say now for cool? Like we had cool,
Is it
say that?
groovy?
Chill.
chill, or
Just don't be sus, man.
I heard it slaps. Is that the new thing?
Yeah,
That
there's
slaps?
all
It takes a
sorts.
little
Of,
while for it to trickle down to second grade, so it's like a teeny bit behind their
Oh,
older students. But
okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
yeah.
Imagine.
Right now, things like Among Us and Minecraft are big, you know. So
Oh,
don't be
yeah.
sus. You're acting sus, man.
Sus. Okay. Yeah, that's no. I think that's the best way to look at it. Is just be a good person. Be an accepting.
Some sort of a non-aggression
Human.
principle
Yeah, I
should
mean,
be taught in school. I think.
Ultimately, I could be a libertarian to the teeth and no government and no laws if humanity could handle itself in that
Yeah,
environment.
sure. If they could.
Unfortunately, humanity has shown a lot of times that they can't. But
Yeah.
but I think
Then again, I think authoritarian governments hasn't been able to handle it very well either.
yeah,
So,
I agree.
I mean,
but
where's
I
the
just
mix?
think that it boils down to communication, kindness, and respect. And I think those are my three main talking points that didn't cover half of what's on my paper here.
Well,
I have to say I was pretty impressed with that paper. It looked pretty long.
Well, I know you came in expecting an argument. It really wasn't. an
I
argument.
came in not sure what to expect. I just wanted to be prepared for anything.
Honestly, I really just wanted an open dialogue.
Yeah.
You'll see me. I'll throw out notes of contention on discussion, but that's just throwing out notes of contention because a lot of people are stuck in their one little track of view.
I from time to time like to throw up controversial
Yeah.
stuff too, just to start up the conversation.
But people people tend to not look at subjects from multiple angles. And
Yeah.
Right.
I like to look at them from multiple angles.
well, when it's just that there's not multiple angles, and my angle's the right angle.
But sure, that's what Stalin said. And but anyways, let's run through some comments. It's about time for me and Dave to get yelled at. All I'm hearing is that you don't trust your own kid to make good decisions. And that could be true. Now, granted, I don't have any kids in school. My kid is 27.
And do
So-
you trust him to make good decisions?
Actually, I do.
Good.
100%. He has at every turn surprised me with being well behaved and compassionate. So
And that is one thing with my children. No matter what happens at school, at least so far, they're fourth grade and first grade, and they answer to kindness with everything. They're nice to everybody, and that's what matters to me more than anything.
that's good. That is good. Okay, that's not what he's saying. I don't remember what it was about.
36
I
minutes.
think
I think we were on the Black Lives Matter topic at that point in time.
Yeah.
And, you know, the fact that I can't back up the organization Black Lives Matter.
no, don't worry, they can't back themselves up anymore. They're getting sued
I mean,
by
I don't-
5 states.
I
right
don't
now.
necessarily want to back up the organization, but
Yeah.
in the classroom, I'm not the. And she actually pointed it out for me what I was trying to pull up and couldn't. There is a Utah Educators Ethics Code. When you said legally how, when I said I'm legally bound to, and you said legally how, it's the Utah Educators Ethics Code that we have to abide by.
I take it Christine is a teacher too. Do you know her?
Christy is a teacher. Yeah, she's with me.
Oh, she's a teacher there.
Yeah.
Well, and then Katie Rollins, yes, 100%. Man, we should have read these live as they rolled through.
I just take that to believe she agrees with me.
I'm sure she
because-
does. Bingo, she agreed with you as well.
We'll assume at least. I don't know.
Don't make asinine transparency bills.
Yeah.
Now, I do think that these transparency bills are a reaction from parents.
Yes. And I wholly understand.
Now, the parents do play some part in not knowing what's going on in their school.
Yeah. I wholly understand that parents want education to be transparent.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I think
But-
is the big thing. That's the big thing with these, you know, transparency bills, and they're coming out with this like, we want schools to be transparent, and they're phrasing it in such a way that's like, we're not.
Well, and I'm going to tell you right now, they write these bills and they're going to have to write away from them within 4 years.
Well,
They're going to have to write new laws to back off of them.
Well, my fear is good educators are going to leave.
Well,
We're already like at a huge crisis of a teacher shortage. Teachers are burnt out.
what about New
because of
Mexico?
COVID, right?
well, yeah,
Like,
like
New
schools
Mexico's
having to bring
bringing-
in the National Guard
I
to
think that-
substitute teachers.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
That
do you
is
think?
Well,
god awful.
no,
I was
I
in the
mean-
National Guard.
You would have someone like me teaching historical points on the timeline,
right? Like,
and it might not be a bad.
You were
thing.
Air Force. They're talking Army National Guard.
Oh,
We don't need some guy wandering in, dropping the F-bomb, spit and chew on the floor, and then, smoking you for 20 minutes.
I do honestly. A lot of my family are educators too, and I look at the process that they have to go to get that job.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, okay, there is a point where it gets ridiculous. You should not have to go to school for 8 to 10 years to get a teacher's position.
Well, okay, so teaching is a 4-year degree. I mean,
Normally, but now-
mine was a 7-year, 4-year degree because I didn't. Know
What did
I
you
was doing
What did
right
you
up
guys
front,
when you went to college? What did you what do you call it? What was your main focus
Well,
on education?
but
Was it
my problem with college was I didn't know, and I came in wanting to be a graphics designer, and then I went into computer programming, and then I went into probably 7 different degrees before I wound up on education. It was a child psychology class that steered me into the classroom because I really liked the idea of child psychology, but I wanted to be helping all kids rather than, just the ones that are in need of the child psychologist. But, I mean, my degree is technically, like I said, it's technically a 4-year degree if you sit down and you get it done.
if
and
you go in with
yeah.
the idea of
Yeah. But it's a bachelor's in science in elementary education with a fine arts emphasis.
is that yours as well?
mine is a bachelor's in elementary ed, so K through 6 was mine. And then I am currently working on a master's degree, which many teachers do go for
in
a
what?
higher in literacy. So in teaching students how to read and just being better educated in that. And our son is dyslexic, and so that's kind of what steered me into getting my master's in that and just getting a deeper understanding of teaching reading. But I mean, a lot of our educators are highly educated,
Oh,
have
yeah.
a lot of experience.
Oh yeah.
And it feels like, I don't know. So it's hard not to take the distrust personally, even though
No, and that I get
there
also.
are
Well,
teachers
so-
who have broken trust.
On top of the 4-year degree, we have to relicense your first 3 years is provisional, and you have to relicense after 3 years to get your big boy degree or certificates. And then we have to relicense every 5 years. And for that relicensure, we're required, I think it's like 300 hours of professional development over that 5 years that we have to continue our own growth and education. So in 13 years of teaching, I've got thousands of hours of professional development of learning how to better do my job behind my belt. So to come in with these bills that, we're asking for transparency, we're asking for more control of the classroom, you're asking me to give control to somebody who might be educated, they might have their doctorate, they might have their master's, but I have worked and dedicated, if you want to count college, 17 years of my life to what I do. And this is my passion, and I'm constantly trying to improve myself. And now I'm suddenly having to turn everything over to the parent to approve what I'm doing, instead of being treated as a professional and expecting that I'm going to do what's in the best interest. And there are going to be teachers out there who fall short on that mark. And I think that some repercussion needs to come to that. But to try and lay this down on all teachers as a bill to the entire state, where at one point in time there was legal litigation written into the bill that if we don't follow, we don't have our lesson plans approved 5 days in advance, then the parents can sue us. I mean,
Who has to approve them?
well, it has to be put out. I think it has to be put out so you've got the year in advance, and then if you're going to make changes, it was supposed to have been 5 days in advance, so that parents have the chance to
Opt out.
or tell them that, well, I don't like those changes, you can't do
How
that.
would that opt out look?
I don't think they thought that far in advance.
What do I have them go sit in the hall? Do I have
That's
to
what I
come
was
up
gonna
with
say.
like an alternate
You're
15
15
or...
minutes into the 2-hour class,
Which-
and all right, Billy, Timmy, and Josephine, you guys
Yeah.
go sit out on the bench.
And if the State Bill 157 goes anywhere where they have total control to opt in and out of everything, I'm suddenly having to come up with 30 individualized lesson plans, which is ludicrous.
When are we gonna? Okay, I've got two things to throw out here. First one is what you just said. There have been teachers that broke trust, but I think we need to. The best way for that to have been dealt with is for all the parents to have come into your classroom over the next month and say, "Hey, what's going on?"
Parents have to work though, Jared.
And talk to you. Yeah, and yes, parents have to work, but fine.
Well, if you can't come into the classroom, then at least communicate with me.
Yeah,
I mean,
you've got a website, for heck's sake.
Yeah, if I have somehow broken your trust, then I want to know that.
Well, and that's the thing.
I don't want you going to the legislature to make laws. I want to know what I've done to offend.
I don't think
so we can make it right.
I don't think there's one teacher in this. Okay, I don't think there. Yeah, one teacher. There's been a couple coaches. I don't think there's one teacher in this county that's broken trust. Is there? I haven't heard of one.
I don't
Not that
think so.
I know of,
And
except for
I
the
don't
ones in the
I don't
news.
think that these bills are necessarily geared. But that's the problem, is once you lay out a blanket statement and you create this law, everyone is affected.
You're punishing the majority over the minority.
But
Yes.
this is a
Because of the
law
minority.
that goes radical to the extreme, which is why I'm saying it'd have to be rewritten back. Okay, next, kind of a rough, hard segue. How long until? So we did this exercise in the last 2 years of virtual learning, and I do think that is the future.
I hope not.
Well, I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
How much of the overhead of our education system is tied up in maintaining that building?
But can I tell you, if everything is money, then from the educator standpoint, virtual learning, if we change to where everybody is virtual learning, then you are again catering to the minority for the majority. Because there is a very small percentage of kids that virtual learning actually works for.
Do you think, well, I was one of those kids that no learning would have worked for. I was a moron. But do you think that it is something that we can grow into?
I think that it is going to be a small portion of kids that would grow into that. I honestly
Really?
think that the in-person learning is what is best for the majority of students in
But
all aspects.
and again, let's
what we're seeing right now in the classroom, and I mean, each year we think, okay, we shut down 2020. We had 3 months of no school. They had 5 months of being secluded at home.
Oh, and we do know that hurt
and then when we came back in August, it was a whole different ball game because I mean, and even this year, like our behavior, I would say there is a good chunk of my classroom day where I'm spent managing behavior rather than teaching. And it's always been that way, but I think it's worse right now than it's ever been. And I think we're still just seeing repercussions from that shutdown and that, that 8 months of isolation. And
I think that well, one, we do know that had overall negative effects on education in the kids and their behaviors and the masking. I mean,
don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say it was the wrong thing to do, but we are seeing the ramifications of that.
Some people have run the numbers and we've set them back at like 2 years.
Yeah. It's
so wrong thing to do.
It's tough.
But how long? Like,
well, but what was the right thing to do?
The VR headsets.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever read the book Ready Player One?
Well, actually, okay. I just read that, but I
realize it's a movie now, but the book is so much better.
Well,
it always is, isn't it?
I read the book like 2 weeks ago, but I have a different podcast where we talked about the metaverse coming up. But how long do you think before we have situations like that where someone offers a VR-based education?
I think we already can bring some of those VR things into the classroom now and go on like a virtual field trip to the state capitol building.
Yeah, I actually have 9 Oculus headsets in my classroom to be able to take kids on virtual field trips.
Well, it's not just that, but how long until, like, let's say, just throwing spitball in here. Let's say we start out with the branch out of maybe kids who are immunocompromised and have to be in safe environments, or kids who have a disability that makes their mobility a little complicated.
At this point in time, going back to I brought up there's options. Mm-hmm. There are schools of choice. Education has a whole umbrella of choices. You want to stick to public education, there's the district schools, there's the charter schools, there's online schools.
Well, so even in our district, you can sign your kids up to go to Blue Peak Online, and they can still keep doing
that's only
online learning.
Isn't that 14 and above?
No, it's any. We have second graders who have pulled out of second grade.
What has caused them to pull out?
Especially since the
fears
COVID.
of COVID, things that parents just feel like that's a better fit
I think
for their
COVID
kid.
has killed like 3 kids under 15 on the whole world.
I'm just saying the reasons that parents have.
I think the Blue Peak program expanded when COVID hit.
Yeah,
really.
So Blue Peak is kindergarten through 12th grade.
Hold on.
Does it cost money?
Hold on.
No, it's part of the Tooele County School District's
Anybody
education
explain
system.
to me what homeschool kindergarten looks like?
Like online school. I don't know. They have teachers. I know one of the teachers.
You do a sing-along,
and they
then
meet
colors.
online over Zoom, and then they have like stuff on that they do on their own that's like self-paced. So I do think it's an option, but this is why I don't think we will ever be a virtual learning, because the last few years have taught me, I think to a lot of parents, I am more valuable as daycare than as an educator.
Okay.
And that's why
that is
why we won't go online.
I think that's where we crossed a Rubicon. We crossed a Rubicon when both parents went into the workforce and school became a daycare.
That is it.
And that that took teachers from one spectrum and put them in another, where they weren't just there to teach you and give you new mind expansion, that they also then became a daycare. And I'm concerned about that as a society as well.
It's a solid point, because there are a lot of times that we are, the whole idea of even, we ask you if your kid is sick or symptomatic to keep them home. What do parents do with that? Because they both work. You can't keep a kindergartner home alone. So if the student has to stay home, the parent has to take off work with them. And we have gotten with the dual parent working, that school has become a daycare. And honestly, as both of us as educators, we could not afford to live on one of our salaries.
No,
She could not stay home, and society is set up. I mean, yeah, to go virtual where every kid is at home all the time, you're going to have a complete reconstruction of our society.
Aaron, I want to ask a personal question.
Okay.
What do educators make?
Beginning salary for most educators is 35 to 40,000.
Wow. After school.
Yeah.
After a 4-year degree.
After 4 years of
or a
schooling.
master's degree.
Well, I mean, when you start getting into the master's education and that sort of thing, it starts bumping you up.
So after I get my master's, I will get like a $5,000 raise. But I have spent far more than $5,000 to get my master's degree.
Yeah.
So that's what I will get.
What
once
you're-
that's
what
complete.
you're saying is
in the
education pays off.
Oh yeah, I mean, big money.
Jeez.
I mean, there's a reason that I came out of college thinking I'm never going to go and get my master's. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point in time, I'm considering making the move into administration, which would require me to go back to school. And I'm not ready to make that move now, but I'm thinking I might do the schooling soon, just so when I am ready to make the move, I'm done with the schooling already. But you know, to go through and get that schooling, that's going to be thousands of dollars that, you know, we might make up after 20 more years of teaching.
Well, don't ever go into podcasting because that doesn't make any money either. Trust me.
I was hoping for the big bucks out of this. I mean, we're getting a kickback, right?
Yeah.
20% of all the money you make.
You will get.
I'll give you
100. You'll get 100% of every dime we make on the show tonight.
Party on.
That is.
Which I don't know if that's a cool thing to say anymore, but you know.
You need to ask one of those kids. Don't ask
Probably
here.
not.
I'm older.
We use emojis wrong. So
I'm older
sure
than you
we-
guys, so man, I'm out of it. 25 years. All right, where was we at? Okay, kindness and respect. Teaching sixth. Oh my goodness, you jumped. Teaching sixth grade. This is Katie Rollins. Oh, why is it jumping? Quit
People
jumping.
got stuff to say, Jared.
Teaching sixth grade social studies history. There's a very big difference between teaching about history and teaching that my personal interpretation of history is correct. You know what? You can say that. But for 40 years they taught the Gulf of Tonkin. Right?
Have you heard the musical Wicked at all?
No.
You don't seem like a musical man, but
I don't?
but there's a song in Wicked where they're talking about the wizard and, you know, well, I'm wonderful because the people say I am. And there's a whole song that basically is summed up in, you know, history is told by the winner.
Yes, that is true.
And we would be teaching a completely different
It's not
story
always
if-
told by the winner either. It's sometimes, well, it's also told by what's most convenient for the powers that be that are teaching you the history.
Well, yeah, like if we were to read a history book that was written by a slave who was taken on a ship from Africa to America, that would be a completely different history book than what is currently in our classrooms.
And I imagine it would shock you completely.
100% agree
But
with
then
that.
again, you also have to look at history as big moments in time.
I feel like right now it's a blame game. Everyone's trying to blame someone for some historical
Guilt.
grievance.
There's a lot of guilt. Guilt
It's all
either
written that
being
direction.
absorbed or thrown. All right.
And we're here just wanting to teach.
All right, where are we at? And I agree. Yeah, but the history we were taught forever that the Gulf of Tonkin is what drew us into Vietnam. Well, it came out 10 years ago. Gulf of Tonkin never happened. Period. Declassified. It was fake. It drew us into a bloodiest disaster, but it was not real.
Yeah.
You know, killed what, 7,000 of us and millions of them for what? So, history is not always just an emotional thing. Once you start reading into it, history is, well, yeah, written by the winner.
It's very complicated.
It is. Okay, teachers are, oh boy, you jumping thing. I don't know why this keeps jumping.
I think it's just the top one right there.
Exactly. Teachers are joining the mass resignation and at alarming rates. We're stretched way too far, and it's reaching a breaking point for way too many. And I agree. And I think that's rough. I think for a lot of situations, the 8 hours a day of school for a student is too long, but that matches the work time of their parents.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Well,
I think, honestly, the school, I mean, one would be just looking at kids, the average kid, a half day would probably would be better for them on the learning level. And to split them up into will this child learn better in the morning or in the afternoon, and figure out
I
that.
can tell you in general, my school is geared, and I think most schools are, but we have 8:30 to 10:30 is language arts instruction. Then they have recess, and then 10:45 to noon is math instruction, and all of that happens before lunch because your best learning happens before lunch.
Yeah. So, I mean, and then after that, but it's treated like a daycare. And then,
Yep.
and then you've got parents who are overworked themselves, underpaid themselves, under the stress themselves. And then they get home and they hear about the latest calamity that happened in some other state, and they overreact. And so instead of them, where they possibly can't come down to your classroom, but instead of
but they
them
can
reaching
email.
out,
They can email.
yeah, but instead of them reaching out, they reach out to, they send a message to a legislature who, let's face it, is probably in the same boat as the parent, probably overworked, definitely not overpaid, but overworked. And also he or she has kids going to a school, and they're like, oh, what is going on now?
I think you're nailing a point that I don't think we've hit hard enough yet, if we've even mentioned it at all. I think we have a little bit, but the news media is 99% of the problem.
Oh,
Because you have one story that happens in Indiana, and suddenly Utah has to make laws. And you've got this huge overreaction, like a huge jerk reaction to something that, we don't want that to happen here. Let's get on top of it before it does.
Well,
There's avenues
seriously. Well, let's look at. We had an incident happen in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and Great Britain had riots.
Yeah.
Well, we're very interconnected, which brings a lot of
But-
good, but also
Yes, but also people are losing perspective.
Yeah.
And the news is far more likely to say anything bad and terrible that's happening.
Why are they more likely to say that?
Makes
well,
money.
that story's
Are you
travels
gonna?
better.
No.
And
Are you gonna hang on for the next segment if the next segment is, hey, look, the weather's great and crops are doing all right?
I don't even have TV, so there's no
Yeah.
hanging on for
But no,
any segment.
the people are gonna hang on when there's war. Why do you think all the
Well,
newscasts?
if you want to put that in a more modern sense, the heavy headlines are the ones that are going to get them clicks.
scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is it that, okay, we'll talk about Trump. We're going to go there.
Okay. I think I need another
Yeah.
shot if we're going to.
Yeah.
Let's
Hold
go
on.
there. Let's go there.
When was the one time that CNN and MSNBC praised Trump?
I don't
Yeah. I mean.
One time. They did one time
Okay. Go. What was it?
when he sent rockets into Syria. The one time. Their words were, and I quote, he finally looks presidential today. Because scary, sex, and violence sell.
What about the vaccine? That is
They didn't
Good
praise him
question.
on the vaccine. Not at all.
they didn't.
No, they did not.
All right, I'm gonna try your bacon, man. This might be
Yeah.
good.
It's not good when it's dipped in the vodka. It's much better just off the plate. But anyways, that's what we're looking at is,
Probably has more kick that way.
yeah, it took away some of the salty bacon patina. But
satisfied
Vodka
customer.
infused.
what we've got is the news is going to, they're going to portray those things because that gets eyes, and they're
Right.
dying for eyes.
Yeah, that's what gets them the clicks. That's what gets them the hits to their website, and that's what makes them money.
Well, even the headline sounds way more dramatic, and then you click on it and read the actual
Oh, yeah.
article, and you're like,
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, every time.
Well, and then, it's like, well, here's this headline, and then they'll give you 2 sentences, but then you've got to click next to read more of it.
Oh, those
'Cause
are the most annoying.
Every time you click next, it gets them a new hit on their website, which boosts their numbers, which makes them more money.
Have you thought about advertising on your website? Can you advertise on your
No,
website?
I don't think I could. I mean, I've never looked into it, but I'm
That'd be
sure
cool.
that breaks one of the ethics codes.
So you
somewhere.
you have one of those clickbait traps.
Have you ever thought about teaching?
Click here to see what's going to happen
And
at 8
this
a.m.
week we're teaching next.
Have you ever thought?
Now click here to see what's going to happen at 8:10.
Have you ever thought about putting your class online as just like a YouTube channel, or teach a particular subject that anyone could download and click on?
I not necessarily, because it again, it's more work. And I did actually last year, being what we were, kind of a hybrid system where we had kids in person and some at home. I had a lot of lessons throughout the year that I did set up a camera, and they are posted to my YouTube channel, because there was not any other way to get what we did in class besides at least see what we did in class, and you're not there to experience it. So this is the next best thing.
and you'd have to be careful with like making sure that students weren't in the shot or things like that. Like I feel like it would be really hard to film my classroom all day
Yeah.
and then make sure like
That enters a whole other
students
ballgame.
being on the internet,
Yeah.
for everybody to see.
Were our classrooms
that would
ever
cause them
live streamed
problems.
all day long, we would have to have private channels that the parents need a login to get into, because we can't just post that publicly.
No, is that a law, or
Yes,
is that
yeah,
that is a law?
FERPA laws, Federal Education something Privacy Act.
So I mean, like if anything ever became law, it should be making you guys have more opportunity to do things like that instead of restricting your opportunities to do curriculums. Because I mean, I don't think the back of a kid's head is a big deal to see on
You
online,
have
but
you
Because
have
they sit forward the
I was
whole
going to
time.
say, you have an amazing view of what happens in a classroom, and those kids just sit and perfect and listen, and
You'll
they are
only see the back of their head.
perfect.
I'll bet it looks like grass blowing in the breeze. Just
I love bringing back Ready Player One. I love the idea of having a mute button for every child.
yeah.
No,
Well,
not your turn, mute.
I missed that from Zoom. Mute.
shock collar.
I see. But I was looking at, because we're talking about that. How long before someone has a job on virtual. Like a paying job, like a bartender in a virtual bar, like when Zuckerberg put out his video, and
Does virtual vodka work as well?
I don't know, it might, but he did his virtual bar. He met his friends at the whatever, on. I don't know if you saw that commercial he made for it, his metaverse. And I thought, well, how long until someone has a job, like a paying job, and then someone gets married. I mean, we've already had this year. 2 people got married on the virtual space, and they had never met in person.
That's great.
And that happened.
There was a news story, I think, from somewhere in China where somebody married an anime character. So why not?
Well, no, these were 2 people, 2 real people.
No, I get what you're
and
saying.
I think one was in Europe and one was in Australia or something, and they got married on there. And there's been lots of weddings this year virtually, where people, so that they could attend cheaper, But the 2 people that had never met got married this year, that had never met in person got married this year.
That sounds crazy.
But how long? I mean, I think we're moving that way. Maybe not for the whole of society, but I think we're going to see parts of society move that way.
Or it's going to fizzle out. My money is on this metaverse thing fizzling out, because it's not really anything new. I mean, we've all played World of Warcraft maybe
Man, you
once or
sound
twice.
like a guy griping about Bitcoin right now.
Don't go there.
I tend to agree with him, though, that I think
Poor Bitcoin.
the virtual world at best is going to be a place for recreation and a place to escape reality. I mean, if hard day at work, there's, it's, going in and losing myself in the world of Assassin's Creed for an hour or so, just to kind of to chill back. I think, I don't know that it's ever going to get, until we're living in an apocalypse and we can't leave our houses for fear of nuclear wayside. I don't think we're going to be living in a virtual world.
Now you remember that game Pokemon where you'd see people like just walking
the
around
Pokemon
aimlessly?
Go,
They'd get
yeah.
hit by cars and things.
Yeah.
That was a big thing for a while.
It was.
Well,
yeah.
you know, there are people who have driven their cars into lakes because their GPS told them to turn. Like, use your eyeballs.
I don't know.
Well, part of the hard part of education is we're preparing kids for jobs that don't even exist yet. The technology is changing and happening so fast.
well, we're
I mean,
preparing kids for jobs that won't exist when they get there.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's and it's not like you as an educator can even really see something 5 years down the road and make a snap adjustment because the curriculum is laid out for you. All right.
Yeah. I just
Yeah,
swallowed
I'm
real-
fine. But you guys also the curriculum's kind of laid out for you as well.
Right.
Yeah.
We have to follow the curriculum.
Yeah. So I mean, we're embarking on a brand new world. Imagine being a teacher, right before the Gutenberg press gets hot. There weren't books.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I, for one, hate teaching out of books.
Yeah, but I mean,
except for literacy, obviously, where you're reading.
well, back
but-
then they screamed that books were evil. It's going to make humans lose their memory.
Right, they're still screaming that.
Yeah, well, but it's going to make humans lose their memory.
Mm-hmm.
And now, I mean, books are going away.
What do you guys teach on now?
But just as far as like
Tablets or something? Or?
well, no, I just prefer. Like I said, unless we're using the book to read, I don't think teaching out of a book is the best teaching style. Like, let's turn to lesson 8.2. This is our lesson on simplifying fractions. Now let's read the first section, and that's not good teaching. And so I don't teach out of books. And generally speaking, another probably unpopular opinion is I don't send home homework. And that's not.
Hold on. You said that's an unpopular opinion?
I think that depends on who you ask.
That is true. But
Unpopular to who? Because
teachers.
Okay. I was going to say, because
unpopular amongst teachers.
my niece and nephews come home and it's like, you just got done with 8 hours of school. We might get you to bed by 11:30.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, it was becoming a parent that made me think, holy cow, what am I doing to people?
Yeah.
Because what I'm sending home that's supposed to be a 20-minute homework assignment, it's taken me 2 hours with my kid because he fights, kicks, and screams the whole way through it.
Yeah, and he's burned out.
Yeah.
The kid had 8 hours of school.
And
now
it took me becoming a parent to see that. But yeah, I don't, for that reason, I mean, we're harming the parent-student relationship.
Yep.
Kids these days are busier than ever with sports and
Yep.
like I have a student. She was a student last year, but this, she goes and does 5 hours of dance after school.
5
And-
hours?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it ain't dance doesn't even play in Utah.
And she's got to sit down and, while it's somebody else's turn to do whatever to try and get her homework done in that amount of time. And homework is not valid anymore.
But-
I think if you can design homework that is something that gets the mission completed but bonds the child and parent, like a game show homework
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
or
it's-
something like that.
I think
that'd be fun.
One of the valid points of homework is to the transparency point that parents see what's going on.
Yeah, they see what's going
They
on.
can see what's being taught. They know what we're learning in
And
math
if that
right
kid's
now,
a
and
little
they're-
bastard, he just get a little more punishment. That's another good part.
But ultimately, I think it's more detrimental than it is good.
I really think so too. But that's me speaking because, granted, my son, I told you, makes good decisions, but he wasn't raised in my house. He was raised with his mom. He didn't come here until after he was all grown up. But, I don't have personal experience, but I have nephews and nieces that I witness it with, and it does seem to be a pretty heavy dole, the big homework.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, you want math homework, send home one problem that's similar to what you're doing in class. So
Yeah.
the parents can see what's going on. They can see how
That's a
their
good
child
idea.
is doing.
Or a
with it.
video. I think a
But-
video is something parent could watch with the kid.
Well, unfortunately, in this day and age, with the change in a lot of the way things are being taught, you have to send home a video so the parent knows how to help their kid.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Common Core is. I had some questions about Common. Now, when it first came out, everyone was mad about it because it was. But I also kind of wondered after a little introspection that maybe it wasn't so much as just to teach the child to do math, but also to kind of develop their brain to be able to approach problems from different directions.
Exactly.
Is that really what it's about?
I actually stand behind Common Core because it is
So I-
100%.
hold on. I want to lay praise upon myself that I guessed the purpose correctly. High five. So that's really what it's about.
Yeah,
It's not just so that they learn to solve the problem, but they learn to approach the problem.
I was literally taught in school when it comes to dividing fractions, yours is not to reason why, just invert and multiply.
I like that.
But that is the opposite of what we should be doing because yours is to reason why.
Mm-hmm.
Like you should understand what you are doing and why you are doing it, and that is. Yeah, Common Core approaches things differently than we were taught as a kid, but the whole point of it is to get the kids to understand and have a deeper understanding of those numbers so they can approach problems in a more educated light.
See, I watched.
Or in the way that works for them, you know?
Well, you watched all the videos of how they broke it down, and they did the side by side. You know, Common Core takes months longer than.
Right, where the one teacher
Regular.
does it, one person does it in like 2
But
minutes, and the other
Those aren't fair comparisons.
Well,
because
even
I
then-
swear they've slowed down the video of the Common Core and sped up the one
Could
and
be
not because
even then.
the Common
So
Core stuff doesn't take as long as those things make it seem.
So
like they do.
I was wondering, you know, I watched those and at first I was one of those like, man, them bastards, why, and then I thought, oh, they're, it's evil, insidious, whoever. But then I thought, wait a second, but it broke the math down into, well, one, I noticed it always broke it down into, you're breaking it into groups and then, breaking. So I was like, oh, that's kind of a sand table learning, what we did in the Army. And also it's teaching them to look at problems different than just the, a line with numbers above and below it. And so I thought, I see what they're doing. You're not taking away uncommon core math.
No.
But you're just so I think what it was doing. So I think they shouldn't have named it Common Core Math. They should have said we're adding in,
Well,
multiple problem solving solution math. Yes, it's a
the-
lot clumsier, but
the naming of things is always a problem.
yeah, that is true.
There was I don't remember who it was, but there was a talk show host that walked the streets of New York and asked people what they prefer, Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act.
Uh-huh.
And almost every single one of them was like, well, the Affordable Care Act, of course. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I would have said Obamacare.
And
I just think it's catchy.
neither-
Well, no, I know, but
And neither of them were what they say in that name.
But this coined term of Obamacare, like because it had Obama in it, people were like, well, no, I can't.
Right.
I'm going to go for the Affordable Care Act, but it's the same thing. Like it's just another name for it, and the naming of stuff is always problematic.
Yeah.
And again, it's just a way for the media to grab attention.
It is.
you know,
It is.
Common Core. I mean, really, what was the big deal about it?
The big reason behind it is so if you have so teachers are more aligned across the nation. You have a kid move from California to New York, they're, in 4th grade, his teachers are teaching similar.
But it's just for math, or was it for other subjects as well?
At this point in time, it's specifically for math.
What I noticed was just the way the problems were dealt with different. Like if your problem had a 21 in it, first you'd break it down into sevens and then break that down. It was just a different way to approach it.
Or just in general, like if I want to do 21 multiply 8, well, 21 is 20 add 1.
Yeah.
And 20 multiply 8 is 160. 1 multiply 8 is 8. 21 multiply 8 is 168.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
it's-
all it is. It's giving them tools that
And that's
I mean,
it just seemed like they were searching.
They made it out to be witchcraft in
yeah,
the media. Is what they did. I mean,
Well,
they did.
And again, news is a problem.
And I think it was just they took math because math is a unarguable, unless you live in the Northwest, it's an unarguable. It is what it is. You can't.
2 + 2 is 4.
Okay, the beauty of math, and I tell my kids this every year. The beauty of math is, yes, there is one correct answer, unless you're dealing with square roots and negative numbers, which is not a fourth grade thing. But math, there is one correct answer, but there's 4 different ways we can get there.
Well,
And I'm going to teach you the 4 of those, and you pick which one works for you. 'Cause
Yeah.
every kid's brain is different.
or just pick one and become proficient at it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
But the thing is, math is pretty much the only law. Math is what it is.
Yeah.
But I think I don't know
Your boys.
why he's out there dying. But it's pretty much the only way. Oh man, he lost track when I hear someone hacking. But it's a law, and there's what was I gonna say? I totally lost my train of thought. But the reason they took Common Core into math is because I don't think they could do that with English or with science, because those aren't as strict laws.
Well, they actually, I get what you're saying.
Where math is something where they can, the answer is always going to be the answer, but you can find multiple solutions.
2 + 2 is always 4, but if it's easier for you to break it apart to 3 + 1, then great.
Yeah.
It's
Whereas
still 4.
English could get confusing, or science could definitely get confusing, or any of those other ones. But math is actual like a universal law. It applies across every language. It'll apply on any planet in the universe you get to.
It's as black as white as you can get.
Yeah.
Is math.
Yeah.
And then but yeah, so that was one thing that I it took me about a year after it came out to kind of start recognizing what they were doing there. All right. So a few more. Now we've had you guys for
2 hours.
2 hours.
Well,
now.
1 hour and 56 minutes.
So we're gonna close this out, but I want to finish the comments, and then we'll cut you loose. I don't know where
and they keep coming too, don't they?
Okay. Parents have to work. Virtual learning is a huge barrier. And I agree, but I think that is the future. I think we've got to expect that we're going to have to lean into that. And it might be better. What if we could figure out how to, make an environment for kids?
Well, I just certainly think it's faster. You can get more accomplished, I think, in that time frame. Like you do it at home, virtually. That's faster than the 8 hours that you're at school.
Yeah, the beauty of the at-home learning is I can create a lesson that takes me 15 minutes to teach.
Uh-huh.
So the video is 15 minutes long. There were times, so let's just go back to the lessons that I taught where I filmed the lesson that I sent home to my students. I filmed sometimes over an hour worth of classroom footage and then sent home a 20-minute video.
Yep.
So you had an hour when you were in classroom telling Billy to
either
over
behavior
here.
management or every kid has to wait for you've got to wait for kids to catch up and finish writing and making sure everyone's on the same page.
But when it's virtual, the kid can play, and if he needs to
You can rewind.
needs
So,
extra
I mean,
time, pause.
there
They're
are-
at their own pace.
Yeah, there are benefits to virtual learning, but I disagree with you that I just don't think emotionally, socially, academically, it's not worth it. As far the cons outweigh the pros.
Especially for youth.
Man,
Young
I
kids,
still think you're a Luddite when you say that, because they were saying this in mid 1500s about books.
Well, parents hated it.
Oh, sure. They're Luddites too. But I'm telling you, it is the future.
I I think more and more classes will be. I mean, my whole master's degree is online.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to
How long before a guy
King's
pops
College in
pops an-
Pennsylvania.
How long before a guy
computer.
pops an Oculus on and gets a 4-year degree?
Or a brain transplant chip or something like that. You know, Elon's coming out with that stuff.
Yeah, he says that every year for the last 4 years.
I mean, I for one would be willing to pilot a virtual classroom.
I just-
Ready Player One style, where we actually show up, and you might be in a headset, but you're sitting in a classroom.
Like you pop into some
and-
virtual real estate.
Yeah. Yeah,
And it
I
happens.
think that there's some validity to the concept of that, but I don't.
I think it's going to happen, and I think also let's pose a couple other solutions, all right, or a couple other things that this would solve. We're in a drought right now, right? How much water do you reckon your school uses?
Probably.
Would they use the same amount of water at home though? You're just using it spread apart rather.
Sure,
than,
but that at home's going to use it regardless.
you got a comment there.
Yeah.
Read it now while we're on subject.
It's a good comment. It's relevant.
I
Yeah.
think it is probably the future for junior and high schools, but isn't realistic for elementary. And maybe, but the school, I mean, that is a substantial amount of real estate, energy consumption that happens all year long. Right now, we're going into tomorrow. It's cold as hell. That heater's going to be running all weekend, isn't it?
They shut off at 4:00. I have limited control over the power in my classroom. The lights turn off on me like every 15 minutes.
I promise you they
The
don't let
heat-
it freeze.
The heat turns way down. It gets cold. I keep a little space heater at school because if I'm there after
Gets-
contract
gets
hours,
cold
I'm
to-
frozen.
So
Gets cold to what?
I don't know, but it's cold to me.
I
in
have
there.
sisters, okay? If it drops below 83,
Okay, I get cold really easy. I understand.
I
your
have a
point.
thermostat in my classroom where the district doesn't. So our schools have individual control.
But even
of our
then,
classrooms.
even then,
but
they're not going to let it freeze. So that's going to
No.
consume
But-
gas all weekend.
I was just gonna.
sure.
But I can tell you though that ours gets sets to 60 degrees on the weekend.
Okay, 60
So,
degrees.
Yeah, I mean, so it does have
And
to
right
maintain
now-
that 60 degrees.
Our intermittent temperature outside is running between what? 21 and
Cold.
35?
Yeah.
So how much gas is being so that's what I'm saying. The future is that is a huge expense for the city, the county, the district, the everyone. Whereas if you go virtual, the house expense is always going to be there because someone lives there, occupies there. You go virtual and that.
And then again, though, both parents have to work because our money's been inflated
And
to the
this-
point where it's worthless.
This might also change. I mean, this virtual Ready Player One open. What happens if we do go to that where that virtual life occupies your free time, where maybe our living spaces get smaller and what we need for in life entertainment gets smaller.
But then is this going to turn into Wall-E, where we are?
Dude,
I mean, you know what humans become in Wall-E.
we turned into Wall-E 30 years ago.
I
just
see
don't
people
think you
our
recognize
age
it.
in Walmarts with those little scooters. I'm like,
I
oh God, I feel so bad for them. What life choices did you make, people? You know?
No, I think I don't know. I'm just wondering what's the future of that. But let's run through these. We are running on past 2 hours now. We need to. I want to thank you,
You got to
guys
let
for
them go
coming
eventually, Jared. Yeah, you got to let them go.
on. I want to thank you, and I want to thank you for having this open
I
conversation.
mean, this has been good, and if you ever have education topics again, I am not as scared anymore.
We didn't. Hey,
you were nervous,
I a little bit. I didn't know what to expect.
really?
after seeing that awesome advertisement I did, I thought that would put you at ease.
I
Yeah,
think
no,
my thing
I
was
just- I
is
just-
that okay? I see the advertisement with the bow tie, and I'm like, Dave, did you pick a bow tie? Like you dig deep into his
Wait,
stuff,
you thought I photoshopped that,
and then he
didn't you?
shows up with a bow tie, and I'm like, oh, okay, he's a bow tie.
I knew I was going to be on camera. I
He
had to
likes
represent.
he likes throwing the Tucker Carlson out
Yeah,
there.
no,
like it.
my very first principal, we had just gone through our beginning of the year training where she, we had to talk about, what is the professional dress code ethics and whatnot. And she pulled me aside afterwards and she just says, now, Aaron, ties are not required. Puts her arm around me and just gives me that look, but they are strongly recommended.
Mm.
And I'm a first year teacher. I want to make sure, because charter schools, we're a year-to-year contract.
Mhm.
Like I have to re-sign my contract every year, and they could choose to not renew me at any point. And so as a first year teacher, my first job ever, they're recommended, okay, I'll wear one.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I've slowly moved away. I started doing just bow tie Friday, and then I realized how freeing a bow tie is because I don't have the tie flapping around. I actually cut a tie in the paper cutter once.
Well, not just that, they're
And-
kind of fun.
But yeah, and so I've just kind of gone to this whole like I just wear bow ties, and she's found this Etsy store that gets me, wraps up the nerdiness into it. Like this is Black Panther.
Uh-huh.
I've got Wolverine, Spider-Man.
I'm sure the
So-
kids love it.
Oh,
too.
they do, yeah.
So you go in and no, I think you're setting a good example for the students. Honestly, to show them that you're professional, you're fun, but you're still, I think
And ultimately, at least in my schools, having both been charter, they're uniform schools where we have a dress code expectation for the children. I've gotten past the point of the principal with her arm around me saying, I strongly recommend this to, if I'm going to be trying to enforce a dress code, then I'm going to present in one as well.
I like it. I like it. All right, we're going to finish out these last comments. Then we're going to let you go. But I did have to say thank you. All right, where was we at?
I think you're just down at the bottom. There's just one last one on virtual
Did we get
learning
this
down
one?
there.
Yeah, you got that one.
Okay. Okay, vaccine. Yeah, that was probably one of our big complicated.
We try not to talk about that on the podcast
Yeah, we
because
got-
of free speech issues.
We totally got hammered on YouTube on the vaccine subject.
Yep.
Christine, I'm with you, Aaron. No homework. Yes, I like it. I think it is probably the future for junior and high schools, but isn't realistic for elementary. Yeah, talking about the VR. And both are incredible educators, and I'm honored to know them. And
Thank
Christy,
you, Christy.
you know what? I am too, and I think they are, and and it sounds like you are as well. You seem to throw out a
She
lot
is.
of good
She's-
ideas.
She's
one-
amazing.
Yeah, she's one of the good ones.
What does she teach?
She's kindergarten right now.
Oh, wow.
She was actually second grade, and then about a month into the school year, we had some complications with our kindergarten teacher, and she just swept in and
Stepped up to the plate.
took over the kindergarten class, which needs a stronger teacher more than, everybody needs a strong teacher, but kindergartners who have been quarantined for the last 2 years of their life, they need somebody, and they've got it with her.
I still got to
So,
know what online kindergarten looks like.
You don't
I don't
wanna
know.
I have to. I can't imagine what it'd look like.
Yeah.
It'd be. I don't know. It'd look like. I don't know. Anyways, if we can get junior high and high school students to do the work on virtual learning days, and that is one thing I've noticed with my nieces and nephews, especially like that. I think that when you say junior high and high school, I think you've got the last 2 years of junior high and the first 2 of high school. Those seem to be the most problematic years because the last 2 years of junior high, they're starting to understand their independence and that. So they start being dipshits. And then the first 2 years of high school, they don't understand that it matters. So they keep expressing that dipshit. And it's that last 2 years when they finally go, oh, this really matters. I got to buckle down. So you've got that 8th, 9th, 10th, right in there, 7th, 8th, 7th through 10th, right in there.
Seventh and eighth grade are just awful for everybody.
Well, yeah.
You're going through so many changes, puberty.
It's not just the
whatever.
changes.
But I know. But it's just you're gawky and awkward,
Yeah.
and things are weird, and
And you're still in middle school,
Yeah.
or junior high, so it doesn't matter. It really doesn't apply.
yeah.
But it's supposed to be gearing you up to go into high school when it does apply. Starting freshman year in ninth grade, it matters.
Yeah, it does.
But they
For
don't
college.
recognize that yet for the first 2 years. So my nephews and nieces, they are all okay. I don't know if you measure it by inches or feet, how far their head is up their butt in those years, but it is measured by one of those two
Are they going to
standards.
need a tonsillectomy to remove it?
I'm telling you, I am telling you. It's
But she makes a good point though. Like, I mean, we had a snow day this year
Mhm.
which we don't really do snow days now. It's a virtual day.
That is a new thing.
Okay.
That changed it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Wh-
changed.
which, if we could get the kids to do the work, I approve
But
of.
hardly anybody did any of the work that we
Yeah.
set up for them to do while at home. Which-
Maybe.
So that's a huge problem with virtual learning too. Is parents have to hold their kids way more accountable.
Do you think? Yeah. Do you think we need new measures of accomplishment?
I think kids just need to do the work.
Yeah, but you know,
But
do we need new?
What do you mean? I don't
I don't know.
know.
Kind of like rewards or being
Not
being,
rewards, but new measures.
recognized?
I think that there are too many rewards in the system as it is, and I hate that I have to reward kids for doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And I do
You
it.
don't like participation trophies.
Well, I mean, I do it because
You're not being a very good leftist coming in here not liking participation. trophies.
I do it because it's effective and it helps, the environment of my classroom. But the fact that I have to, the fact that I have to be like, hey, here, have this candy because you were the one kid that was being quiet in this moment. Thank you for that.
That's rough.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's,
I agree. I agree. You should all be quiet. Now,
yeah.
I want to let you guys go. I want to thank you guys for coming in. You guys have both been awesome. Opened my eyes up to a lot.
Twice as much as normal candidates for the show.
Well, all right.
Well, thank
2
you for-
hours.
2
thank you
hours.
for
It
inviting
was supposed to be
us.
the Tooele happy hour.
Yeah. Twirl a happy
Well.
deuce. I want to throw out one last question.
Okay.
What would be the benefits or possibilities of, instead of teachers teaching a specific year, of teachers following students through
There are actually, we have a friend who teaches in what's called a Montessori
Montessori?
school model, where they teach in bands. So the teacher has the same kids. I think kindergarten is still kind of its own beast, but then the teacher will have the kids from 1st through 3rd grade, and then they get a new teacher for 4th through 6th grades. And
Well, you guys both seem like you'd be qualified to teach high school level stuff.
I don't want to teach high school kids. I could probably teach the content.
But what if you got a group of kids when they were first graders and stuck with them till they graduated?
That's all fine and dandy for kids that stay in the same neighborhood their whole life.
Okay.
But
I mean, I definitely think
Well,
there's
then-
benefits. You would build
Then
a really
we
strong
branch
relationship
into-
with the kids and the family.
Then we branch into some virtual education areas.
I
What if, here's another possibility, another thing to think about. If we go virtual and parents from wherever in the nation or possibly the world sought you out to teach their kids,
Well, there.
what is your education compensation look like under a situation like
I
that?
have seen teachers leaving education, like being a public school teacher, and I'm trying to think of what the website is called. But then they
OnlyFans.
no, but they teach on an online virtual school setting where parents can opt their kid into that class and they pay them money and it can be on whatever subject. So there are teachers teaching like what I'm going into, like literacy, helping kids who are having difficulty with reading, or it can be on any subject really, and they are making like bake some of them.
Good for them.
Like, but they
That
have
is-
pulled themselves out
That
and they are
is
a private
the under
teacher
my
that
economic
parents
desires.
opt into.
That is your free market model.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are slaves to the state.
Yeah.
And under the free market model, and which I have to say this before we go. Last word. I run the show. I can be even
well,
try the
okay.
last
If you
word.
want last word, let me get last word then. Right, first,
Second to last word.
second to last word. If you want to bring money into the picture, if you want teachers that you don't have to worry about the transparency of them, if you want quality educators, then pay us a wage that says that you trust us as professionals. The fact that two educators, like we as educators, both have to work to survive. I think we would probably both work anyways, just because that's our personality. But the fact that we have to, you want quality people, and you don't want to have to worry so much about the transparency, then you need to treat them that way, and you need to compensate them that way.
I agree, but let me throw this out there.
Okay.
You're arguing to people who have no control over that.
Well, I understand that.
You are slaves to the state.
And
Then you guys also go and sign on with a union who doesn't give a shit about you and fronts all your money to a political party. Your union doesn't put any of the money you put forward back into you. It all goes directly into blue. 100%.
Well, they did fight against one of the bills, this one that got pulled.
Well,
So
sure.
I mean, I don't know if they don't do anything.
But where's your higher pay?
Well,
$35,000 a year.
That's not enough.
College educated. Where's the union at on that day?
no, I wish they would do more.
But boy, I'll bet they show up every time you get a paycheck to get their dues.
I don't pay a union.
But no, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And a union in a right to work state,
It has its pros and cons.
that's flush it before you pee.
But if I had a parent who decided they did want to, I don't know, sue me or something, then the union is there to back me up and provide me with legal protection.
Yes.
And it's sad that I have to feel like, well, maybe I should join the union so I do have that protection. Like, what if I do need that?
That's a scary thought.
I want the unions to come. Here's what I want the unions. Any union, whatever, gangster out there, listen to this. I want the unions to come to our teachers and say, we want commensurate pay. Right now, our schools take in a lot of money. Again, we're back to talking about a big ass building.
Yeah.
What could your paychecks be if we didn't have a big ass building?
Oh, there you go with the virtual learning again.
It doesn't have to be just virtual learning.
Well, most of that goes towards sports, Jerry.
Do those buildings have to be big ass buildings?
Well, my
There's
building.
a lot of kids in there.
Yeah.
Sure, but could we figure out a different method?
Honestly, if I had one complaint about my school and my classroom, is I need about 6 feet in both directions.
Okay.
The charter schools have smaller buildings, so to your point, we do have a smaller space size. But when I get 28, 30 kids in that room, it's squishy.
Yeah. But anyways, and then so the union, and the big one is the unions aren't coming in, and you hear this a lot, of teachers spending their personal time on their jobs. And the unions aren't coming in and arguing for, look, this is the hours they work. And when the district or whoever comes down and says, well, we need this much more of them, the union needs to say, okay, where are you going to take it out of?
No, I mean, I am disappointed with our union as the state and like the national
That's what
union.
Christy's saying right there, too.
I've been more happy with the union that is like the Tooele union going to the district and advocating for us when it comes to salary increases and protected teacher time. And so my local union, like the TEA, the Tooele
Education
union,
Association.
yeah. So I feel like they are more there for me a little bit, and then I don't know, the further up it goes, like
maybe the big union.
But when I join them, that automatically puts me as part of UEA, which I think then that money then siphons up to NEA and continues up.
What
the
do you think
chain.
about a lot of the states leaving the NEA this year?
I don't know. I haven't.
It's been
Follow
like,
that
I think
too much.
19 states left it because the NEA drafted that thing that called parents that were angry, had them listed as terrorists, and sicked the DOJ on them.
Yeah, that's not a popular decision.
That's freaking scary. It's scary when parents get arrested for going to a PTA meeting and expressing their agitation.
It's good for transparency, right? I mean, you
And
want to
so
motivate
that's-
me to be transparent.
That's where these come from.
Yeah.
So maybe we just need to ditch the unions, go to a free market system.
Yeah, maybe.
Last word.
If we just summarize from the beginning what we talked about, this was all about House Bill 234, right?
Yeah.
I mean, 2 hours on it. And then you can have last word. My summaries on the point is the biggest solution to quote unquote transparency is two-way communication, and teachers communicating as well as parents communicating back to teachers. And then ultimately, if it is the ethical part of schooling that you're worried about, if you're worried about me teaching kindness to all humans, then maybe you need to be homeschooling.
I think, yeah. I think you need to teach universal kindness.
You can have last word now.
Blind kindness. But yeah, but honestly, where has teaching blind kindness been a problem? A lot of people are worried about teaching certain study like CRT. You hear about that. But when you look into that teaches a lot of guilt at people. Do you think anyone should carry guilt for something that happened before they were born? For something that happened probably before their parents were born?
No, I don't think that guilting people over what's happened is right, but I also think that...
I dare you to read what Ibram X. Kendi, is that his name? What he wrote about it.
I read one of his books.
Did you? Did you read the one where he said, the only answer for past racism is present racism, and the only answer for present racism is future racism?
I don't remember reading that.
What does that answer?
specifically.
What question would that answer?
Well, that's what he says. That's how you answer past racism, is present racism.
I don't
And he's one of your
understand that
CRT
philosophy.
authors.
Well, you've got kudos here on
Yes,
the show, that's for
Aaron
sure.
is the kindest.
Oh, thanks, Tana.
Aaron is awesome. Yes,
Care
he is.
Bear stare.
But that
Meh.
is something that he wrote and he proposes to.
Yeah, no, I don't think there should be guilt. I think we can acknowledge that there are systems that have made things harder for other people
Sure.
that maybe we have not experienced. And I can acknowledge that I have privilege as being a white woman, and I don't have to feel guilty that I have that privilege, but I can acknowledge that I have it.
Yeah, I don't think there's a reason to feel guilty over the ways of the past, but there are parts of the past that are still present in the present.
Is it
But
easier to be white as a teacher? I mean, like, do they hire white people more than they hire black people? If they have the opportunity to hire...
I don't know if that's necessarily true so much as, at least here in Utah, the demographic is just such.
Well, I can
but-
tell you right now that unless you're going to Harvard, white male is the last thing you want to be if you're applying for anything. If it's Harvard, it's Asian. And that's just bearing out. That's a law's written in.
But
And I'm not saying this to pose an argument, but I just don't. What I would hate to do is to take a fourth grader and have that kid go home thinking he's inherently bad because he was born a certain way.
No,
Just like I wouldn't want a young Hispanic or black or anyone to go home thinking they're bad because they're born an inherent way. So I think I think we've lost the track in some of our education on that.
I 100% agree with you. I don't think that fourth grader should go home feeling bad that he's white and bad for that. But I think that fourth grader should go home and understand that, and maybe fourth grade is not the right age to throw out.
No, I
for
don't
this.
care what age.
But
Yeah.
we should be able to go home and understand that, if you see a black person being mistreated, then you step up and do something.
Yeah.
And to stand with them.
But not
and-
just you see anyone being mistreated.
Well, yeah, I know, but I'm just saying and I think that just that general empathy for everybody, it goes back to that human kindness and the respect for everybody. And it doesn't matter philosophically where you stand or religiously where you stand or politically where you stand. We can stand side by side and exist in the world.
And I think it's okay. I don't think our kids should feel bad about themselves, but history is hard and there's a lot of sad and terrible things within that. And so, yeah, they might have these like sad, complicated feelings over just talking about it because they're feeling that empathy of like, oh man, like this. And so I think we need to be careful about not protecting our kids' feelings too much by we don't want them to know any of the difficult things that have gone on because we don't want them to have these bad
I am wide open
feelings.
about talking about history. I will talk about history that you guys would never talk about.
It's not empathy though. When,
I don't.
when Asians get points taken away
No,
from
hold on.
their applications, and say a black person
It's in
gets
court
points,
right now. That's in court right now. Harvard's getting sued into oblivion over that. What I'm talking about is when you teach it in a frame. You know, that makes, when you teach it in a frame that white people did this to this person. When you universalize, when you continually teach that we're not humans, we're black people and white people and Asian people and this people, you know, and horrible things only happened here and here, you know, ignoring that at the same goddamn time, people in the Appalachians are turning blue because of inbreeding and being the poorest humans on earth in history, you know, because right now, this is the sexy thing to talk about, the sexy moment. When we can look at history as a universal. Race has nothing to do with the quality of person you are, good or bad.
No.
But when I teach that someone couldn't ride on the anywhere they wanted on the bus because we had racist laws.
Yes, in 6 states in the
I
South.
want to touch on what Christy said here. White people did do that, though. If you go back to the civil rights history,
Some white people did that.
Some white people did that. We have evidence of signs saying for whites only.
Sure.
That is, I mean, not obviously that's not speaking for everybody, but that is, I mean.
And
You
where
can't not teach the history that white
and
people were involved in this.
That is
when
that
you
is
got that.
that is true. That is true. But
Do we teach what happens in South Africa right now against white people from black people? It's the exact opposite. Right now they have signs that say
it's a little worse. It's like if the Ku Klux Klan actually ran the government, but were black.
South Africa
But-
has a very
But
complicated
no,
history as well.
but what it happened in 7 states in the South? It was the Democrats' reaction to the Republicans winning. That's exactly what it was when they did the Jim Crow laws. It's exactly what it was. It was the Democrat Party was unhappy that Democrats finally, or that Republicans started electing blacks into the Senate in Texas.
It's so funny how history flops itself. And what used to be a Republican way of life is now a Democratic way of life, and vice versa. And
Is it, or did they just find another way to phrase their history to enslave
And
people to
I
future?
I am anxiously awaiting for the day that we can run on the American Party, and we don't have to run
Yeah.
as a Democratic or a Republican.
But what we really need to, but no, and I agree, we need to talk about it. But I don't think we should phrase it as white people did this.
no.
'Cause that's
I don't-
universal.
Well, when I teach
Do you
that-
understand that that's universalizing the white people?
And everyone did it.
I do agree with you to a point that
So
we
how
should
many-
teach it as people did this.
No, you find the people who did that. There are people who signed that into law. There are people with names that voted that into law. There are also people with names who fought against it.
And
We
I
can
did teach
lionize
that
both.
there were white people that did fight against that with the black people who were standing up against
Yes.
that too. And
But that's
but we also talked about why was it why is the person whose law that is not unfair to are you not as likely to stand up for that as quickly? If it's outcry from the person it's unfair to first, and then people are like, well,
Right.
they have to think about, oh yeah, I guess that really isn't unfair because it hasn't really been affecting me.
Mm-hmm.
You,
And
you,
so
you
I-
need to train them to speak out immediately when they see it happen.
Yeah.
When they see that behavior, they have to say something right then and there.
Yeah.
So you demonize the action and the person. We've got to, and this is where CRT falls short. We've got to do our best not to demonize groups. It would be wrong of me to come out and espouse the numbers of crimes committed in the nation by certain demographics and blame that on whole demographics, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. We've just given leverage in one way against another over the last few years. And that's what I'm saying. Dig down. What were the senators that voted for Jim Crow laws?
But does it not apply to how many people just went along with it? Is that not important? I mean, we don't have the names of all those people everyone who just.
Right now, you're kind of going along with CRT. Should you be brought up in future conversations about a bit of racism? Or should it just be you're in society right now? You're just dealing with it.
I 100% agree with you that if we could somehow formulate lists of every single name responsible and every single name that fought against it, then yeah. And is it fair? Because there's no way you're going to get every name. In the history books in the future, you're probably not going to see Elise and Aaron Pratt stood up against the transparency bill, House Bill 234.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably not going to see that.
Actually, you will. It's on
Well,
the internet forever.
Okay, but and I don't know. I don't know 100% the right answer, and it would be nice if we just had these.
What I'm concerned about right now is that we've hit a point in time and we're not the first nation that's played this game. We're not the first society that's played this game. Rome played this game. Greece played this game. Funny, they all did it right before they collapsed.
History tends to repeat itself.
But they started demonizing their past in universal on their populace. And that's where we're at right now.
I will say over the last 2 years, with the school shutdown and then the earthquake and then the murder hornets and then
that murder hornets lasted a long time. Was it like 15 minutes until they saw the first group of honeybees kill it?
Yeah.
And they were like,
but I just mean, like, we had all of these things happening. That 2020 was a rough year.
Oh God.
And it just seemed to be one thing after another. And I really, in my point in time,
2019 was the rough one. 2020 was the aftermath.
Well, yeah, but I made my decision at that point in time that what I had control over was my world.
Good.
I can't. I mean, I can stand up and spout till I'm blue in the face, but ultimately what it boils down to is I can control what I can control.
Mm-hmm.
And I can stress over murder hornets that aren't sitting right in front of me, or I can stress over, the Black Lives Matter riots, or, but what I can control is right here in front of me right now. I can't control the past. I can't control the future. I can control how I am and how I am toward other people and how I behave towards other people. And as an educator, I have some influence over these kids and how they're going to do the same. And that is the world that I have control over. And over the last couple of years, you're gonna stress yourself to death trying to worry about controlling things you can't control, and coming to the realization that I will make my difference right here. I will make the difference that Aaron can make. I will make the difference in the people that surround me. I will make the difference in the way I act, and I will make the difference in the way that I hopefully help mold our future.
I think that's the most efficient way to do it.
And that is, I don't know, maybe that should be our last word.
Ooh, he's got you.
Well,
Sorry, take last word.
No, you're well.
let
here-
him have it. Let him have it, Jared.
Yeah.
It's good. The Tooele 2 hour and a half. Just that doesn't sound like a good title. So
Yeah.
let's take it
Well,
here.
Tooele happy hour in that I was happy to be here. So thank
Twilla
you guys.
happy deuce and a half.
Yeah. So
But yeah,
just
hey, let's
thank you
everyone-
guys for inviting us. It was good.
Let's everyone thank him
appreciate
for coming on. I want to keep this dialogue open, and yeah, this was a very good conversation. We came away with. I'll bet you guys thought it was going to be more antagonistic than it was.
it. It was a lot more ADHD than I expected it to be.
Yeah, well,
It's therapeutic.
I mean, it was perfect for my brain. I kept up, but
Good.
But
but yeah, and it is interesting conversations. Thought provoking stuff. Hopefully, parents who are on one side came away with the perspective of the other. That's it. It's all about perspective and remember Common Core math when you're looking at these other problems. I think we need to take that. We need to try to look at stuff from other perspectives and other people's, issues.
Ultimately, there might be one final solution, but there might be multiple ways to get there.
We don't want to say final solution on this show.
Oh, sorry.
Man. Anyways, thanks for joining us, everyone. And we hope to have these two outstanding people on again.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.